Chapter 121 to 121, Becoming a Nascent Soul Stage in 6 months. Up until now, you haven't touched anything in this world, right? You could try touching something. Zhang Li had been floating in midair while talking to Luo Ying. Now, following the advice of the long-lasting immortal elder, he set foot on the ground. However, he found that after landing, he didn't touch anything, he passed straight through the floor. Half of his body was exposed, as if he was merely a phantom in this world. This is the world's self-preservation law. As a person from another world, you can't directly influence the world being rewound in time. Only after 10 years when this world's time returns to normal can you influence it directly, explained the long-lasting immortal elder. Zhang Li quickly scanned the planet with his divine sense, locking onto all the zombies. However, when he tried to attack, he found himself enveloped by an inexplicable force, preventing him from launching an attack. Zhang Li clenched his fists, trying to break through this inexplicable force. Success was near, he was almost there. Zhang Li was elated, this inexplicable force seemed powerful, but it was still not as strong as he was. Stop, 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 what are you doing? The world is about to collapse. Brahma Tower shouted in panic. It was the first to sense the abnormality in the world, the whole space was about to be shattered. It was not just a portion of space that was being shattered, but the space of the entire universe. Zhang Li quickly withdrew his power. Only then did he understand that the force hindering him was none other than the world's law of order. When he broke through the law's hindrance, the world would collapse. By then, the issue of the zombies would indeed be resolved, but so would the people of this world. This law was incredible of stubborn, favoring mutual destruction over veiled ink. Zhang Li turned to Luo Ying and said with a warm smile, "Little Ying, let's discuss something. Can you eliminate all the zombies in 6 months without my help?" Luo Ying was taken aback, her eyes wide in shock. What was Mr. Zhang talking about? Eliminate all the zombies in 6 months. That's an impossible mission, Luo Ying reminded. Mr. Zhang, the zombie whale that's about to arrive is a bona fide 4th-order zombie. Marine creatures are formidable, and among them, whales are a force to reckon with. The whales that can come ashore have fought for a long time in the deep sea, consumed who knows how many brain cores, and evolved into 4th-order zombies. If they weren't 4th-order zombies, how could they be unstoppable by the nations? Luo Ying pondered. It took her 5 years to become a 4th-order strengthener in her previous life. Even if she had a chance to relive her life, grabbing the opportunity and obtaining countless brain cores wouldn't ensure progress. She had to consider whether her body could handle it. If she constantly pushed her body to the brink of collapse, accurately calculated brain core absorptions, it would still take her about 1.5 years to become a 4th-order strengthener. And even if she became a 4th-order strengthener, it wouldn't solve the zombie problem entirely. Upon seeing Luo Ying's expression, Zhang Li understood that his request was unreasonable. A 4th-order zombie, in cultivation terms, would equate to the nascent soul stage. For Luo Ying, it meant becoming a 4th-order strengthener or reaching the nascent soul stage within 6 months. Even if Luo Ying started cultivating now, achieving the nascent soul stage in 6 months was impossible. Pig breeding for meat usually took about 6 months. It wasn't plausible for Luo Ying to reach the nascent soul stage at the same speed as pig breeding. He regretted his decision, and the regret was significant. If he had known about this situation earlier, he wouldn't have chosen to eliminate all the zombies in 6 months. 2 years might have been a fairer timeline. If he couldn't get all the fragments, getting half of them would be enough. I might not be able to help you, Zhang Li said regretfully, informing Luo Ying about the situation. Luo Ying felt a bit down after hearing this. But I will still try to help. Using the strengthener system that I personally improved and integrated with cultivation methods, I could help you become a 4th-order strengthener within 2 years, sweeping across the planet, Zhang Li said. This nearly halved Luo Ying's required time. Regardless of the mission, thinking about the hundreds of millions of people who would die at the hands of zombies in the future, Zhang Li would assist Luo Ying to become stronger, resulting in fewer deaths. Thank you, Luo Ying sincerely replied. She didn't quite understand the notion of world laws and such, but she knew that Mr. Zhang wanted to help her, even though he couldn't directly interfere due to various reasons. Luo Ying took a quick glance at her cell phone, realizing that the time for the zombie whale to land was approaching. Mr. Zhang, I need to put other matters aside for now. I need to go back and save my sister. Let's go. Zhang Li knew that this matter was urgent. He had 6 months, surely enough time to figure out a way to defeat the zombies. In a narrow, dilapidated corridor, hurried footsteps echoed. Luo Ying rushed back home, urgently flung open the door, but the thought of seeing her sister after 10 years made her unconsciously slow down. With their parents dead, she and her sister were left to depend on each other. In the last apocalypse, her sister turned into a zombie at the very beginning. Her memory of her sister was forever frozen at the morning when she said goodbye before going to school and her sickly sister in bed. This caused her to never want to return to this city for fear that it would bring back painful memories. As Luo Ying pushed open the bedroom door, her memory of her sister and the reality overlapped. She knelt down, gently holding her sister's hand, and said softly, "Little Zhu." Luo Zhu had a pure face with attractive features. She was undeniably a beautiful girl. Her long eyelashes quivered slightly, and Luo Zhu opened her eyes. "Big brother. I am here." Luo Ying felt like crying. It was as if he had suffered countless hardships during the apocalypse for 10 years, just to hear this one word from her, "brother." Cough. Although I don't want to interrupt you, I have to remind you that the zombie whale is about to arrive. Luo Ying used her divine sense and saw the shape of a whale flapping its fins and emerging out of the sea, though not in the direction of Luo Ying's city. Who is this? Luo Zhu looked questioningly at Zhang Li. She thought her brother was worried about her illness and had come home on leave, bringing along a friend. But her brother's friend had a strange look, dressed in ancient clothing carrying a pagoda. "My name is Zhang Li, those who know me call me the Human Emperor," Zhang Li said with a smile. Luo Zhu responded with an uncertain, "Oh," completely oblivious to the weight the 3 words, "Human Emperor," carried. "Little Zhu, you might not believe it, but zombies are about to arrive. We must get prepared. This is why I am here." Luo Ying held Luo Zhu's hand firmly, his gaze filled with determination. Luo Zhu, still feverish, weakly shook her head. "Big brother, you have never lied to me. I believe you." His sister's trust was like a shot of adrenaline, giving Luo Ying infinite strength. He sprang up, preparing to face the zombie apocalypse. He locked the doors and windows, blocked the main door with a pile of items, and barricaded the windows with a wardrobe, leaving only a small gap to observe the outside world. Serch the November EL fire. NET. They had a plenitude of food for several months, so there was no concern. He opened the tap and filled up several large basins with water. The first day of the zombie whale's appearance was the most dangerous as people were continuously infected. You never knew which corner might hide a zombie waiting to bite you. Luo Ying couldn't risk going out at this time. Moreover, going out to kill zombies now ended up being useless. Those who just became zombies weren't even considered first order. These types of brain cores were useless for strengtheners. Wait until several days later, when the zombies had consumed countless humans. At this time, they could barely be considered first order, and that was when Luo Ying planned to take action. The zombie whale is coming. Chapter 122 to 122, The Source of the Zombie Virus. Chapter 122. Chapter 122, The Source of the Zombie Virus. At that moment, people didn't realize that this day would forever be engraved into their memories, a day that they would recall with horror and dread. 100-meter-long blue whale was soaring in the sky, its eyes rolled back, its body covered in blood. Out of curiosity, many gawked at it, calling their friends over, taking out their phones to take pictures, making raucous noise. In his past life, Luo Zhu was awakened by the noise outside, and when he opened the window to see the flying blue whale, he was bitten by an infected fish. "Look, its mouth is wide open," someone exclaimed. The blue whale opened its mouth a full 90 degrees, countless infected fish sprung forth from it, raining down onto the vast city, strewn everywhere across the city. The fish had thin wings, but they couldn't fly, they only glided. The infected fish from a kilometer high soared down to the city, bearing rows of sharp teeth, biting any person within sight. Witnessing such a horrifying transformation, people panicked and ran. Those who were bitten didn't immediately transform into zombies. First, they felt pain, then they became disoriented, unconscious, and confused. Subconsciously, they followed the crowd, heading towards the safest place. After 10 minutes, these people fully turned into zombies. Serch the novel Fire. Ada at. By this point, the people who had turned into zombies were on the inside of shopping malls, supermarkets, schools, underground parking lots, and other places. "Hey, what's wrong with you?" Many people sought refuge in supermarkets, and they noticed that some of their companions had become unusual. The companions who had already turned into zombies opened their bloody mouths wide, frantically biting others. "Ah, he's gone mad. Quick, hold him down." People quickly subdued this single zombie, but too many people had already been bitten. Anyone who was bitten would turn into a zombie after 10 minutes, causing the entire supermarket to become a hunting ground for zombies, with few survivors left. A family of 3 hid in a bathroom stall, hugging each other, trembling with fear. The wife, still in shock, asked softly, "Is it all over?" Thump. A bloody hand clawed at the edge of the door, struggling to stick its head through the 10-centimeter high gap in the door to look inside. Due to the angle, it couldn't see inside, but it seemed to sense the presence of people inside and started touching the ground in the stall. Seeing this scene, the hearts of the three people almost jumped out of their throats. Luckily, they were standing further inside. The zombie felt around for a while without touching its target and had to give up and leave. Phew, the three of them sighed in relief, their bodies relaxed, and the little girl looked up to see a zombie clawing at the door, looking down at them from above, and grinning eerily. Similar scenes were still happening in many other places. People, terrified and hiding from the zombies, would still be found by these sneaky zombies. The windows of Luo Ying's home were blocked by planks of wood. Luo Ying observed the outside situation through the specially reserved gap. Stop looking. Hearing Zhang Li's persuasion, Luo Ying gloomily covered the last gap. Yes, what was there to see? The more he saw, the more he felt his own lack of power. If he was still the Shadow King now, even if he was only the first stage, he could save some people. Lo Zhu only had a mild cold, which was very easy to treat. Luo Ying, following Zhang Li's instructions, pressed several points, and Luo Zhu recovered. On the TV, the female anchor was introducing the current events. Dear viewers, due to unknown reasons, many coastal cities witnessed the spectacle of blue whales flying, fishes spewing out of the whales, mouths are highly infectious. People infected would, after 10 minutes, exhibit varying degrees of madness, biting others, and other symptoms. Medical experts suspect that this is probably due to an unknown virus. Further research is still needed. The backdrop to the anchor showed cities facing the zombie crisis, but it had been blurred to avoid appearing too disturbing. Someone handed the female anchor a note. She quickly read it and said with joy, "We just got news that mechanized troops have been dispatched to support the disaster-stricken cities. We believe we will be able to contain this natural disaster very soon. Let's stay tuned. We urge the public to keep your doors and windows shut, do not go out, and wait for rescue." Hearing the anchor say this, Luo Ying remarked quietly, "It's useless, the military has no idea about the power of the fourth stage zombies, they are an invincible existence." After Luo Zhu recovered, her mind cleared up a lot. Through conversation with her brother and Zhang Li, and events on TV and outside the window, she quickly realized what the world was about to face. First, she thanked Zhang Li, then she asked her brother with a pale face, "Are zombies really that horrible?" Luo Ying wanted to say it wasn't horrible, but he ended up not being able to say it. Given time, zombies won't be a problem, but what we are lacking the most right now is time. Having nothing to do, Luo Ying explained how things unfolded in his previous life. From when his school was overrun by zombies, his narrow escape from death, the defeat of the military by a zombie whale, resulting in complete annihilation, to the discovery by humans of the incredible use of brain cores, and the establishment of the enhancer system. Then to collapse of nations, the formation of survival areas across different places, the fall of the survival areas due to hordes of zombies, decreasing their number to 5, to the final aggregation of human power to resolve the zombie crisis in the deep sea and being betrayed and reincarnated. Luo Ying's 10-year apocalypse experience was fraught with twists and turns, near escapes from death, meeting friends, forming a small squad, joining a survival area, facing a zombie horde, and finally, only Luo Ying survived. In the apocalypse, one always stands to lose more than they gain, and Luo Ying was no exception. Through this process, he became stronger and stronger, eventually becoming the Shadow King. Quote, Luo Zhu and Bantata were engrossed in his stories. Luo Zhu was immersing herself in the dangers her brother had faced, and Bantata was thinking that the experiences of the week were indeed so. If it weren't for that alien spaceship appearing out of nowhere, there wouldn't have been this zombie crisis. Luo Ying said angrily. Speaking of this, Bantata had a lot to say, as it had roamed across galaxies and had a wealth of information. Actually, it seems that your planet is probably the last place where life exists. Bantata's words shocked Luo Ying and Luo Zhu. I've been to many planets, not a single animal is alive, only zombies. Some planets, even the zombies fight among themselves, resulting in only 2 sixth-stage zombies left on the entire planet. According to Bantata's description, this universe was full of zombies, and this planet was the last place to get infected. Listening to this, Luo Ying and Luo Zhu were dumbfounded. Where did the original zombies come from? Zhang Li asked. He always felt that the zombie virus gave off a strange vibe. The proto-zombie I found is on a planet known for the most advanced technology in the entire universe. They managed to grasp the basic principles of spatial translocation 1,000 years ago. That planet was the first to be infested with zombies and fell apart very quickly. 1,000. Zhang Li was deep in thought. The timing was too coincidental. It was 9,000 years in the past on the continent of Juzhou, and merely 1,000 years in the past in this world. In other words, 1,000 years ago, the celestial ladder in this world also disappeared. The zombie virus might have been an invention of the heavenly demon from outside their realm. Celestial Elder, can the shards of the celestial ladder restore the world to 1,000 years ago? Zhongli called for the everlasting celestial elder once again. Are you dreaming? Chapter 123 to 123. Please cooperate in maintaining internet order. Chapter 123. Chapter 123. Please cooperate in maintaining internet order. When he received a negative response, Zhongli reluctantly gave up his plan to return to the scene 1,000 years ago. Mr. Zhang, you may not know, our world has something called the internet. It's invisible, but it's everywhere, just like. Luo Ying struggled to describe the internet, but he realized that his vocabulary was somewhat lacking and couldn't describe it very well. Zhang Li interrupted him. I know. You know. Luo Ying was surprised. Seeing Zhang Li dressed in ancient clothing, he thought that Zhuzhou was a very traditional world. He didn't expect that their technology was so advanced that they also had the internet. If you know, that makes things easier. Luo Ying sighed in relief after skipping the explanation. The internet is still functional, and I'm considering whether I should post information that I know online. Saving even one person would be worthwhile. Such a move would save people. Of course you can. Zhang Li commended. But I worry that if the government somehow finds out, they might come for me. Luo Ying shared his concern. Zhang Li thought, any sensible person in power in this world wouldn't choose to go after Luo Ying. The most likely approach towards Luo Ying would be to choose to collaborate and protect him. Don't worry, my divine sense covers the whole world. If anyone wants to harm you, I'll know. Moreover, even though this city is filled with zombies, it has also isolated those who want to capture you. By the time we leave this city, you'll already have the power to protect yourself. With Zhang Li's guarantee, Luo Ying's confidence increased greatly. He quickly opened his computer and started to organize his thoughts. The introduction to zombies came first, classified according to his knowledge from his previous life. He categorized zombies as level less, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, and level 5. He also provided detailed descriptions of how formidable zombies at each stage are. For example, how the skin of a level 4 zombie is so tough that even a missile can't harm it. Search the novel ir.net. Luo Ying hoped the military can see this and develop more effective combat tactics, but he thought the probability was quite slim. Then he began to write a survival guide. The present-day zombies were all at level less stage, their attack power quite weak. As long as you are well prepared, you can easily deal with them. The survival guide included how to avoid zombies, how to prevent getting bitten, the weaknesses of zombies, etc. As for self-rescue after a bite, Luo Ying had to admit sorry, there is no hope, and thus he didn't write about self-rescue. Lastly was about the brain core. This was crucial. It was related to the strengthening system, the key to defeating the zombies. However, when Luo Ying was preparing to write about the strengthening system, he was stopped by Zhang Li. I say it, and you write it. Zhang Li would say a sentence, and Luo Ying would write it down. At first, Luo Ying didn't notice anything, just that there was a small discrepancy with his own understanding of the strengthening system. However, as it went on, he noticed that the strengthening system achievers who followed Zhang Li's steps were far more powerful at the same level compared to those from his past world. Mr. Yang's understanding of the strengthening system greatly surpassed his own. Luo Ying had spent 10 years thinking, while Zhang Li, he had barely had contact with it several times. The knowledge of someone in the Mahayana realm naturally cannot be compared to Luo Ying's. Mr. Zhang, you improved our system so quickly. Zhang Li smiled and nodded. He had seen Yi Wu rise from level 1 to level 2, as well as a level 5 Luo Ying, although this is only a small part of the strengthening system. Zhang Li could infer the overall picture of the system. In essence, it was repeatedly infusing spiritual energy into one's body to strengthen oneself, a brutal method similar to the blood-burning method or life-burning method and others in JoJo, but the strengthening system was more popularized and accessible. Zhang Li supplemented some efforts to cultivate immortality into the existing strengthening system, aiming to help the strengthening system achievers merge their body, energy and spirit as one, unleashing even greater power. Luo Ying was an example of someone whose body, energy, and spirit did not harmonize, resulting in a waste of life force and a dispersion of power. This was not just a problem with Luo Ying, but a problem with the entire strengthening system. Luo Ying didn't yet fully understand Zhang Li's intention, but Fan Tian Tower did. The strengthening system cultivators following the new method can abandon their cultivation at any time and start cultivating to become immortals. After all, the strengthening system was adopted out of compulsion. Unless necessary, it's better not to cultivate it. Zhang Li had already been considering where the people of this world would go after the zombie crisis passed. Mr. Zhang, what does the phrase, heaven obtains one to purify, earth obtains one to be tranquil, valley obtains one to be full, man obtains one to live forever, mean? It seems your world doesn't have a corresponding culture to understand it. Let me put it in another way. Mr. Zhang, what does the phrase, the muddy pellet has 9 true rooms, the square inches within it, inner attire is purple gowns flying robes, but think of one part for eternal life, mean? Just write it as, Mr. Zhang, this phrase. Doesn't your world have compulsory education? How come you don't understand anything? Zhang Li was annoyed. We don't learn these in compulsory education. Zhang Li and Luo Ying's writing was in full swing. Fan Tian Tower and Luo Zhu felt thrilled watching it all. Luo Zhu didn't quite understand what Zhang Li and Luo Ying were writing about. After Fan Tian Tower explained, Luo Zhu understood. The first 2 parts that her brother wrote were for saving people, while the last part that Zhang Li wrote was for saving the world. This piece of writing was like a panacea, which could save countless lives. Luo Zhu clenched her small fists, feeling proud of her brother. Luo Ying clicked the send button. The 3 people in one tower huddled in front of the computer screen, waiting full of expectation for views to explode. After a refresh, then. This article contains sensitive content and has been deleted. Please work together to maintain internet order. The 3 people in one tower silently stared, remaining speechless for a long moment. Zhang Li was the first to break the silence. Ahem, since there's nothing we can do for now, why don't I teach you 2 how to cultivate to become immortals? What I wrote on the internet just now was a universal method of cultivation. This time, I will tailor a method of cultivation suitable for both of you. Luo Ying knew how powerful Zhang Li was. Being instructed by such an important figure could even be considered a great fortune. Luo Ying remembered what Zhang Li had said, leveling to the 4th stage in 2 years was unheard of. Thank you, Zhang Amos. Luo Ying discovered a problem in Zhang Li's words. I found that your sister seems to have better talent than you. You have dual spiritual roots, water, and fire. The 2 attributes are equal, which is considered to be top tier among dual spiritual roots. And, your sister has single spiritual root, which is even a variant, top tier single spiritual root. Compared to you, your sister has a higher probability of saving the world. That hurt, Mr. Zhang. Luo Zhu blinked her big eyes. It seemed like she had surpassed her brother in an unknown aspect. Before starting to cultivate to become immortals, first understand the basics of immortality. Legend has it that in an era which cannot be verified, the spiritual energy was so abundant it's unimaginable. The ancestors of ancient times observed the sun, moon, fierce beasts, and plants. With enlightenment, they discovered the spiritual root, consumed energy to transform it within themselves, started the path to immortality. After undergoing many hardships and frustrations, some of the ancient ancestors finally broke through human limits and achieved the immortal body. But the immortal body was vast, the quantity of spiritual energy was sufficient while its quality was not up to the mark. It couldn't support the immortal body, and the first immortal who broke through quickly died. Later, another ancestor with great wisdom refined spiritual energy into immortal power, thus was able to support the immortal body V. The combination of the immortal body V and immortal power is what we call an immortal. Using the class system that you can understand, it means level 8. Strengthening System Achievers. Chapter 124 to 124 Contacting Immortality. Chapter 124. Chapter 124 Contacting Immortality. The 8th rank, Luo Ying silently repeated, his heart filled with longing. Ever since he learned from Zhang Li that there were beings comparable to 8th rank enhancers, his goal had become to reach that rank. Luo Zhu, on the other hand, didn't feel much of anything. Whether it was 1st rank, 2nd rank, 7th rank, or 8th rank, they were all just numbers to her. Before achieving immortality, one must pass through 7 stages: Qi, cultivation, foundation establishment, golden core, nascent soul, divinity transformation, body integration, and tribulation crossing. Finally, one ascends to the status of immortal. These 7 stages roughly correspond to your enhancer system. Cultivation requires 3 prerequisites. SEARH the ADAOVEL fire.net. First is the spiritual root. Everyone has a spiritual root. The difference lies in whether it's a 5-element root or a heavenly root. Among all spiritual roots, the 5-element root is the lowest, whereas the heavenly root is the most prime. However, the type of spiritual root is not a decisive factor. Today in the 9 provinces, there are cultivators with 5-element roots who have managed to reach the point of harmonizing 3 elements, attaining the body integration realm. Follow my instructions, clear your minds, and sense your own spiritual roots. During Mingzong's time, Zhongli was able to directly guide him, but this time he could only rely on spoken words to indirectly guide the siblings to find their spiritual roots. Luckily, both of their spiritual roots were of exceptional quality, making them easy to locate. Luo Ying closed his eyes, continually imagining himself sinking deeper and deeper. It felt like days, or possibly only seconds, until he felt as though he had fallen onto a soft cotton, a sensation so gentle and comfortable. He sensed a deep heat and dampness within his body. The 2 sensations were intermingled, coexisting harmoniously. This indicated that his fire and water spiritual roots were balanced. Luo Zhu had nearly the same feeling as her brother, but inside her body, it felt like an icy cave. However, she didn't feel cold. This indicated that she had a mutated single spiritual root, an ice spiritual root. Second is the spiritual energy. Although the spiritual energy on this planet is thin, it's enough for cultivation. Zhongli had noticed early on that compared to the apocalypse of the future, the spiritual energy of the present time was incredibly pure. It wasn't contaminated with any zombie virus and was safe to use abundantly. Close your eyes and feel the spiritual energy. The siblings lightly closed their eyes, but their vision was not submerged in darkness. Instead, they saw many small points of light flickering with a blue glow. It's so beautiful. Luo Zhu couldn't help but exclaim. Because they had already found their spiritual roots, their sensitivity to the BPMNCUAL energy was MUCN Snarper man average people. Once they attained a certain level of cultivation, they would be able to clearly sense the spiritual energy even without closing their eyes. While Luo Zhu was immersed in the beauty of her first encounter with spiritual energy, Luo Ying opened his eyes in confusion. If everyone has spiritual roots, and there is an ample amount of spiritual energy, does that mean everyone can cultivate? Not exactly. There's one most important factor in cultivation, the pathway through which spiritual energy circulates within the body. This process is known as the circulation cycle. One complete cycle is called a circulation. But you must remember, the spiritual energy cannot circulate randomly within the body. It must follow a specific route, otherwise, the slightest mistake can lead to internal injuries, or even death. Zhongli solemnly warned the siblings. His words were by no means an exaggeration. In the schools of the 9 provinces, all teachers would warn their students to never practice cultivation by themselves without a proper understanding of the circulation path. Once the students were capable of initiating a circulation, the teachers guided them one-on-one during their practice to prevent any accidents. The circulation path is not singular but adaptable according to the quality of the spiritual energy, the speed of circulation, the points it traverses, and so. Quote, in the 9 provinces, there's another term for the circulation path, the cultivation technique. Since every beginning cultivator is unaware of their strengths and weaknesses, they often regret their choice of cultivation technique later on. For example, a cultivator with a fire spiritual root who chooses an aggressive fire-attributed cultivation technique may later discover that they are actually inclined towards beast taming. They will feel regret, as beasts are sensitive to fire and don't favor cultivators with a strong fire attribute. This forces him to switch to a gentler fire-attributed cultivation technique, which can waste years of progress while his peers advance far ahead. That's why the 9 provinces has a universal cultivation technique called spiritual energy chart. This is the first cultivation technique that all cultivators learn. Its limit is not high, only up until the foundation establishment stage, but its advantage is that it doesn't conflict with any other cultivation techniques. Once a cultivator reaches a certain realm and realizes their affinity and preferences, they can select a more specialized cultivation technique. For instance, if they discovered that they were capable of discerning medicinal herbs by their smell, they would choose a cultivation technique that leans towards alchemy. Or if they found that they had a good affinity with plants, they would choose one leaning towards spirit plant cultivation. If they fell in love with women without wanting to get married, they would choose a cultivation technique leaning towards dual cultivation. If they discovered they didn't feel guilty after killing, they would choose to turn themselves in. Of course, the latter scenario was only likely to occur in the Zhou dynasty. This general populace of the 9 provinces who were at Qi cultivation stage 3 could practice the spiritual energy chart for their entire lives without having to worry about switching cultivation techniques. Right now, Zhongli was teaching the siblings the spiritual energy chart. As for which cultivation technique they would practice in the future, that would depend on their progress. You should try to draw the sensed spiritual energy into your body and circulate it through the path I've taught you, but at a slow pace. Luo Ying made contact with the spiritual energy with his intent and tried to draw it into his body. After a long while, he finally managed to infuse a few blue points of light into his body. Phew, the next step is to draw in the energy. Zhang Li praised him from the side. Your talent is not bad, you've reached this step so quickly. This was quite rare. Luo Ying opened his eyes and said shyly, no, it's just that he stopped midway when he realized that Mr. Zhang was not praising him, but his sister. Luo Zhu had already circulated 3 circulations. After a while, Luo Ying proudly announced, I've also done 3 circulations. Zhang Li muttered an, oh, and continued passionately teaching Luo Zhu, excited by her progress. Fan Tian comforted him, your cultivation talent is not bad. It's just that your sister's cultivation speed is extraordinary, however, you also have an area where you're faster. Like what? Luo Ying asked expectantly. After all, as a rebirther, he was destined to be outstanding, and cultivation wasn't solely dependent on the speed of absorbing spiritual energy. He must have other outstanding qualities. You were born faster than your sister. Buzz off. Young man, don't be too aggressive. Here, let me teach you some prayers. You see, the essence of our Buddhism lies in these scriptures. As long as you chant day and night, you can surely progress in cultivation. Can praying help me surpass my sister? Being aggressive as a young person is quite good. Zhang Li was quite satisfied with the progress of both siblings. Now, both of you can be considered Qi cultivation stage cultivators. Take some time to consolidate your cultivation. Later, I'll teach you the gathering water technique and the immovable Mingqing law. Chapter 125 to 125, Luo Ying's Buddha Nature. Chapter 125, Chapter 125, Luo Ying's Buddha Nature. In the apocalypse, you need 3 things. Food, water, and to not get scratched by zombies. Zhang Li temporarily can't solve the problem with food, but he does have a method to deal with water and not getting scratched by zombies. The gathering water technique is the most basic Taoist spell. It can gather water from the air, and it has low requirements for mana and realm. However, it also has a drawback. The amount of water in the air is limited, so water can't be gathered indefinitely. Once their realms improved, they could learn new spells allowing them to convert other substances into water. Zhang Li knew several protective spells, but most were either too demanding in terms of realm or their effects weren't satisfactory to Zhang Li, leaving only a dozen or so that met his requirements. Among the dozen or so, Zhang Li chose the immovable Mingqing law. From its name, it's clear that this is a Buddhist law. Buddhist laws usually emphasize introspection and do not have high cultivation requirements or consume much spiritual energy. As expected, when Luo Zhu was able to use the gathering water technique and play water games with the Fonta Tower, Luo Ying was still struggling to maintain the shape of the water ball in his hand. Despair filled Luo Ying's heart. Since his rebirth, other than saving his sister, he hadn't met with a single pleasant event. Is talent really so important? He roared in his mind. How did you manage to master the immovable Mingqing law so soon? Zhang Li curiously asked. No thought, no desire, I want nothing, Luo Ying replied, his hands in prayer. A faint golden light emanating from his body, his expression indifferent. Although he didn't understand why, Zhang Li felt that Luo Ying had a natural talent for Buddhist laws. Buddhist laws are difficult to master, and there are dull cultivators who fail to grasp the true essence of the Buddhist law in their lifetime. However, Luo Ying quickly mastered the immovable Mingqing law, at least the shallow part. Despite being impressive considering that during this time Luo Zhu was still pondering without finding the key, her protective golden light had not yet taken shape before it broke. When she saw her brother succeeded, she poked him curiously and found that the layer of gold light around her brother's body was as hard as gold foil. Even if she tried hard to poke she poked it. Luo Zhu is now at the first level of Qi cultivation, so her strength is not small. This time, Fonta Tower was genuinely trying to help Luo Ying. The scriptures of law do not distinguish between families. I teach you the Bright King Sutra, which complements the immovable Mingqing law. Recite it in your heart, and it can increase the hardness of the golden body. Luo Ying had a good memory. After reciting until his tongue was dried out, he finally memorized the Bright King Sutra. Luo Zhu also finally, under Zhang Li's guidance, refined the immovable Mingqing law, forming the lowest level golden body, but it wasn't as durable as Luo Ying's. However, she couldn't remember the lengthy Bright King Sutra. When she voiced her worries to Zhang Li, he said, although the effect might be a bit worse, it's okay to play it on a tape recorder. Mr. Zhang, you must be here to punish me. Remembering his own struggles to recite the sutras, Luo Ying quietly shed tears. Alright, it was just a joke. Playing a tape recorder could attract zombies, so you should practice the immovable Ming King law at home first. Bang! Boom! The sudden sound of cannon fire made all the windows echo with noise. It's the military. Luo Ying reacted first. Zhang Li's divine sense could only let him observe, he couldn't share it with others as it would directly affect them. Luo Ying had no choice but to look out through the gaps in the wooden planks and observe the military's actions. The whale soaring in the sky was under intense artillery fire, its massive body seeming destined to become a target. Being so big, it's only intimidating. The commander sneered in his heart. It moves sluggishly, it's just a larger target, just a chunk of moving fat. How could it possibly withstand the artillery fire of a mechanized unit? The survivors in the city, seeing this, were moved to tears. They crossed their hands and prayed that under the military's artillery fire, the damned beast would be blown to smithereens. Seeing this, Luo Ying thought to himself that it was bad. A zombified whale could hardly be considered a mere target. When he and the whale had been in combat, it had been as agile as a bird. The whale would only fail to dodge an attack under one circumstance, if it didn't consider it an attack at all. The modern weapons the army prided itself on posed no threat to a fourth-level zombie. In his previous life at this time, he had been too busy dodging zombies to have a chance to watch the army fight the whale. He learned of the army's disastrous defeat only later. Seeing it with his own eyes now, he could guess what would happen next. The smoke created by the artillery fire blocked their vision. The radar tracked the situation with the whale. The commander saw that the whale's position on the radar remained the same, and so he continued to order an attack. Report, the target is starting to fall. The commander was overjoyed. Continue the attack, don't give the enemy a chance to breathe. Yes, the booster ignited first, and the missile flew out from the launch box, completed various pre-programmed actions according to the computer on the bomb, and accurately hit the whale. The missile with a maximum speed of 891 km per hour continuously pounded the target. The target is falling from the smoke. Using a telescope, a soldier saw the huge whale drop straight from the smoke, its wings folded, countless missiles venting their anger on it, setting off deafening explosions, as if they were listing this monster's sins. This one monster had trapped 10 million people in the zombie zone, making rescue difficult. A third of all survivors would be optimistic. No, the target has spread its wings and is flying towards us. The soldier observed the anomaly and reported loudly. The whale that was about to crash opened its wings, beat the ground hard, and raised a hurricane, lifting its body. The NO circumflex ELFIRE.net. After the mutation, the whale's length was 100 meters, and its wingspan reached a terrifying 300 meters when fully extended. It skimmed the ground, transforming into a 300-meter-wide war machine, sweeping away all targets in sight. High-rise buildings were cut in half by its wings, countless survivors hidden in the building were smashed to pieces. The abnormal air pressure between the wings and the ground caused zombies wandering in the streets to fly high in the sky and be smashed into meat paste. The windows of houses couldn't bear this wind pressure, blowing into the houses, and for survivors in their houses, their sanctuary would have no windows. Wherever the blue whale passed, all people and zombies died. The army was right in front of the blue whale. Of course, they couldn't withstand the impact of nearly 1,000 tons at twice the speed of sound. To be precise, nothing on this planet could withstand this kind of impact. A fully operational mechanized unit was swept away by the blue whale, and situations like this were happening all over the world. After clearing the military, the zombified blue whale flew inland. And there were still 70 or 80 such whales. Seeing this scene, Luo Zhu swallowed hard, and was stunned for a long time. Despite having a size advantage, this was only a fourth level. From Zhang Li, Luo Zhu discovered that he hoped she would kill all these zombies within 6 months. Luo Zhu looked at the insignificant water ball in her palm and secretly made up her mind to share the burden with her brother. It's just the Bright King Sutra, I can recite it. 3 days later, the two siblings were fully equipped and ready to go. Time to go out and collect the brain cores. Chapter 126 to 126. The second condition to become a strengthener. Chapter 126. Chapter 126. The second condition to become a strengthener. People had long discovered that zombies harbored brain cores within their heads, their brains having mutated into crystals that contained unknown energy. This energy was like nothing humans had ever seen before. Scientists tried to combine the energy from these brain cores with modern technology in order to bolster the power of their thermal weapons. However, progress in this field was slow, requiring state-level laboratories to spend several years, even decades, to achieve any significant results. But humanity couldn't afford to wait that long. Zombies besieged the world in a month. Society was on the verge of collapse, with order crumbling. Even assembling a team of scientists to research the integration of brain core energy with weaponry proved to be a daunting task. Just when things seemed to be at their bleakest, someone discovered the true purpose of brain cores. Instead of combining them with weaponry, they could be applied directly to humans, using the body to absorb the energy from the brain cores. A crude method, perhaps, but it was a surprisingly effective one. Thus, the enhanced humans were born. The emergence of the brain cores was a beacon of hope amidst the apocalypse, piercing the darkness and giving mankind a glimmer of hope. In the 9 states, the brain cores had a more pleasant name, spirit stones. The 9 states were rich in spiritual energy, enough to produce spirit stone mines, whereas this world was so barren that not a single spirit stone could be formed. The difference in the concentration of spiritual energy between the two worlds was plainly evident. The energy within a brain core could be considered as concentrated spiritual energy. However, becoming an enhanced human wasn't simply about absorbing this spiritual energy. If one were to purely absorb the spiritual energy without the correct circulation path for it, any and all who tried would find themselves crippled or worse. According to Zhang Li's observations, there was a second requirement for becoming an enhanced human: the presence of zombie virus within the body. The virulent zombie virus was spread through airborne means, and every breath humans took contained a trace amount of this virus. This minute amount of the virus wouldn't zombify humans, but it could serve as a vital lubricant, aiding in the absorption of spiritual energy. No care for any specific circulation path. This absorption through the cells, once reaching a certain threshold, made one an enhanced human. The enhanced human system required the concentrated spiritual energy from within a brain core to stimulate the physical body, and whilst there were techniques such as the spirit gathering array to gather spiritual energy, they weren't techniques that low-level chi cultivators could execute. The siblings needed to venture out to hunt zombies. Luo Ying's original plan was to protect themselves by covering their bodies with book pages bound tightly with tape, highly effective for the stage of zombies they were dealing with. However, now with the protection of the Vajra Sutra in their possession, they didn't need to resort to such measures. Within the confines of the classroom, the remaining 20-odd survivors huddled together, trembling. They had been trapped here for 3 days, their stomachs grumbling in hunger. The fact that the classroom had been stocked with several barrels of drinking water was the only reason they did not have to worry about dying of thirst. Otherwise, they might have perished even before falling into the clutches of the zombies. This couldn't last, though. The water was bound to run out eventually, and they knew they needed to risk their lives and escape the classroom, seeking a lifeline elsewhere. And now, they were faced with a test of life and death. Is it gone? Luo Ying was right, there really are zombies. We should have listened to him. I miss my mom. Their classmates whispered amongst themselves. More than a discussion, it seemed like a way to vent their fear. The gore and carnage, the Walking Dead, they had not ever seen such a horror, so even thinking of the time a zombie had pulled out an intestine stretching 5 to 6 meters filled them with an urge to vomit. However, they had to suppress this urge. If they were too loud, they might attract the zombies outside. Some of the female students bit their clothes, their eyes teary as they wept quietly. They had all witnessed the battles between the military and the whales zombies, hoping that they would be rescued once these whales were vanquished. However, the grim reality of the Fourth Order zombies' formidable strength shattered their hopes. Shush! The female teacher who once scolded Luo Ying for sleeping during class was now gesturing for the students to keep quiet. Despite being frightened herself, and being worried about her parents, she knew she was a teacher and that it was her job to protect her students. So, gathering her courage, she moved cautiously towards the small window of the classroom door, careful not to make any noise. On the first day of the zombie crisis, the school had turned into a slaughterhouse. There were too many students for anyone to escape the zombies' rampage. The numbers of the living diminished rapidly, while the zombie population exploded. Luo Ying's class was on the top floor. When the students realized something was wrong, they had time to prepare. Only half of them perished. The survivors smeared their friends' blood on the window panes. This not only obscured their view from the outside but also concealed their scent from the zombies. This crude method allowed them to remain hidden for the past 3 days. However, it was a stopgap measure at best. It seemed that a new type of zombie had made its way into the school building, its strength unprecedented. Even the metal handrails of the staircase had been deformed from its attacks. This zombie also seemed to have a keen sense of perception, as it claimed many students and teachers who were fortunate enough to survive the initial onslaught. The echo of their screams still haunted them. And now, that zombie was lurking on the top floor. First, the teacher pressed her ear against the door, listening carefully for any signs of movement outside. When she confirmed there were none, she voicelessly wiped a bit of the bloody smear off the window and sneak-peeked outside. She saw that the distinct zombie was feasting on a corpse far away, seemingly unaware of them. She recognized this zombie. It was a despicable gym teacher who several female students had reported for unprofessional conduct. If not for the zombie crisis, he would have been fired in a few days. If only they had fired that scumbag sooner, the teacher thought resentfully. The teacher returned to her original position and whispered to soothe the students, "Don't worry, it hasn't noticed us." Miss Huang, a trembling female student, raised her hand, pointing to the spot on the window where Miss Huang had wiped away the blood. There was an eye peeking in. The zombie had discovered them. Miss Huang's heart stopped, and the students let out screams. The classroom had 2 doors, and some quick-thinking students tried to escape through the other one, only to find 2 zombies crouching outside, feasting on an unidentified corpse. The 3 zombies sauntered into the room, the zombified gym teacher lunging at Miss Huang. A strong hand suddenly appeared, grabbing the zombie's ankle and flinging it across the room with the strength of the wielder's right arm, knocking over the other 2 zombies. The owner of the hand was none other than Luo Ying. That was close. SEARH the NO circumflex EL fire. NET. Luo Ying sighed. He had been in the same situation in his previous life, hiding here with his classmates when they were attacked by this zombie. Only Luo Ying had been lucky, being the only survivor. Despite the race against time, he had made it just before the zombies started wreaking havoc, saving his classmates and teacher. "Watch your back," Miss Huang warned Luo Ying. The 3 zombies had gotten up and were preparing to attack Luo Ying. A petite figure darted past, her hand clutching a dagger, effortlessly beheading the 3 zombies and extracting a brain core. Chapter 127 to 127 Change of Thought. Chapter 127. Chapter 127 Change of Thought. Truly a born killer, Zhang Li remarked. Luo Ying had wandered the post-apocalyptic world for 10 years, completely unfazed by the zombies. But Luo Zhu was different. Having grown up in the peace era, all it took was a few tips from Luo Ying on how to quickly defeat zombies, plus a couple of practice rounds, and she learned how to effortlessly behead them. She remained unfazed even in the face of blood and corpses, as if they did not affect her in any way. And that is why Zhang Li made that remark. Luo Zhu extracted a first-order brain core from the body of the athletic teacher who had turned into a first-order zombie. "The noise just now attracted quite a few zombies," said Zhang Li, appearing like a ghost behind Luo Ying, surprising their teacher and the rest of their classmates. The noise he mentioned wasn't from killing the zombies, but from the screams of the students. Luo Ying and Luo Zhu separated, heading for the 2 exits of the corridor. Invoking the immovable Ming King Law, they swiftly beheaded the zombies, their heads falling like raindrops. All the zombies in the teaching building were eradicated by the sibling duo. They had achieved all this merely on the strength of the first level of Qi cultivation stage, even though they weren't enhanced beings yet. Once the zombies were all taken care of, the siblings returned to the classroom. "Thank you," said their teacher, amazed by the drastic transformation of these unassuming students. Luo Ying accepted the brain core handed over by his sister. "This is called a brain core. It contains an energy known as spiritual energy, which can make someone stronger," Luo Ying explained, demonstrating to their classmates how to become enhanced beings, knowing that he couldn't always be around to protect them. Imagine an invisible hand extending from your body, drawing out the spiritual energy from the brain core, and infusing it into your body. Their teacher and classmates watched as a few strands of blue gas emerged from the brain core, flowing into Luo Ying's body. SEARH the AdaOVELfire.net. A faint crackling sound echoed within Luo Ying's body, signaling the augmentation of his muscles and bones, and the healing of his internal injuries. "A sensation I have missed," he murmured, gripping his fists and sensing his power, becoming the first enhanced being in this era. By the way, the first one to reach the Qi cultivation stage was Luo Zhu. "Mr. Zhang, could you help check how many first-order zombies are left in the school?" 4. Located in. It takes many humans to evolve from a regular zombie into a first-order one, and the school, naturally full of humans, is a hotspot for such evolution. "I'll be right back," Luo Ying declared, rising from his seat after hearing Zhang Li's location report. Shortly after, Luo Ying returned with 4 brain cores, handing one to Luo Zhu. Luo Zhu easily became the second enhanced being, having been taught repeatedly the necessary precautions by her brother. Luo Ying handed the remaining brain cores to their teacher and two well-behaved classmates, teaching them how to become enhanced beings. There were other survivors in the building, but Luo Ying didn't know them well. He couldn't simply pick someone at random to transform into an enhanced being, in case they turned out to be cowardly, selfish, or greedy, thereby wasting the brain core. Luo Ying gave some advice, suggesting to wrap textbooks around their bodies, secured with tape to prevent scratches from zombies. He then reminded the three enhanced beings that they had a certain degree of resistance to the zombie virus and wouldn't be infected by regular zombies. They could clear the school of zombies and establish a base in the school, gathering supplies from the vicinity. This was the safest course of action. They had no need to worry about attacks from first-order zombies since the siblings would clear the entire city of all first-order zombies. As the Luo siblings prepared to leave, one of the classmates, feeling safe around them, called out, "Won't you stay and protect us?" Luo Ying left without answering. What's with the act? The abrupt onset of the apocalypse left some still struggling to adapt, believing that being classmates made no difference. The teacher responded coldly, "Does Luo Ying owe you something, that he should stay and protect you? But aren't we classmates? Shouldn't we help each other? Didn't he just help you? Of course when you help someone, you should go all the way. If I had his power, I would definitely stay to protect everyone," retorted the student, although well aware he wouldn't be as strong as Luo Ying. The teacher ruthlessly exposed his lie. "I thought you would go save your family." He was lost for words, knowing that if he became an enhanced being, he would indeed choose to abandon everyone else to save his parents. In a peaceful environment, the teacher wouldn't have been so harsh, but having witnessed the army's defeat and the emergence of enhanced beings, she realized the peace era had ended and the age had changed. She had to correct her students' naive ideas. If anyone harbored the same perceptions as the student earlier, it was surely to lead to substantial trouble in the future. Turning to the other students, the teacher admonished solemnly, "Students, times have changed. Don't harbor naive expectations for others to risk their lives to save us. We can only stand on our own, strengthen ourselves, and thus survive." Now as three enhanced beings will lead a rescue operation for survivors in the building, eliminate zombies, and establish a safe zone in the teaching building. Presently, first-order zombies were scarce, appearing only in densely populated areas like supermarkets, hospitals, and schools. At Zhongli's directions, the siblings took the shortest route to clear out these first-order zombies. At this stage, however, the siblings couldn't absorb so many brain cores. So, they located some makeshift civilian rescue organizations, gave the brain cores to their leaders to help them become enhanced beings, and taught them about the brain cores, enhanced beings, and zombies. 3 months later, the zombie whales returned to the ocean, while a large number of cities lay in ruins. The existence of enhanced beings became widely known. Many countries and corporations sourced immense manpower and resources, drove zombies out of ravaged cities, and established safe zones, continually reinforcing and thickening the walls. Enduring the grief of losing loved ones, people began rebuilding their homes. All safe zones formed their own rescue teams to clear out zombies around the safe zones and conduct rescue operations in surrounding areas. Once, countries grappled with overpopulation leading to resource shortages. Now, population had become the most important resource. Population meant strength. It meant the ability to eliminate more zombies, improve the construction system of the safe zones, and expand the safe zones. Meanwhile, people also became aware of enhanced beings and the power of individuals. Enhanced beings were talents coveted by all safe zones. The safe zones would promise various benefits: women, food, power, everything could be given, just to attract enhanced beings. And speaking of the most coveted enhanced beings by all safe zones, none could compare with the Luo siblings, who were always surrounded by ghostly illusions. Chapter 128-128, Ancestral Spirit of the Luo Family makes an appearance. Chapter 128. Chapter 128, Ancestral Spirit of the Luo Family makes an appearance. At this time, the safe zones were still making great efforts to come up with meaningful names for themselves, such as Fortune Coming, Everlasting, Double Happiness, Newborn, and so on. But what the safe zones are called is unimportant to the zombies. In the last world, dozens of safe zones will be wiped out one after another due to various factors such as zombie waves and human calamities. In the end, no one wanted to name the safe zones at all, thinking it was useless, so they simply called them Zone 1, Zone 2, etc. In Fortune Coming District, at a small bar, the dim light bulb was swinging unsteady. Countless drinkers were here to vent their emotions and loudly brag about their adventurous stories. "Did you know that Luo Ying made a breakthrough?" said a man, who with shifty eyes and a rat-like mustache, after downing a cup of low-quality white wine, and started talking about Luo Ying to the others. "What's the story?" Someone got interested in the rat-mustached man's topic. When the drinkers heard Luo Ying's name, they gathered around, waiting for the rest of the man's story. Now Luo Ying is one of the most famous figures in the apocalypse, the founder of the enhancer system. He established the ranking of zombies and enhancers, allowing mankind to realize the gap between the current technology and the fourth-order zombies. If it weren't for his development of the enhancer system, and his proposal to unify the currency system with contribution points as a new currency, who knows how long it would take to establish a safe zone. During the day people risked their lives scavenging wastes for materials. In their spare time at night, they liked to gossip, and Luo Ying's gossip was the most entertaining. However, Luo Ying was often roaming around the ruins of various cities, killing zombies, collecting brain cores, searching for survivors, and rarely came to the safe zones for supplies. Therefore, people knew very little about Luo Ying's situation. Most information was obtained from the mouths of survivors. It was incomprehensible why someone would not come to the safe zone to replenish supplies. Not to mention anything else, water supply baffled them. The safe zones had purification systems, ensuring a clean water supply. If Luo Ying didn't come to the safe zones, could he somehow conjure pure water? The rat-mustached man smiled without saying a word. The drinkers immediately got the hint, shouted, "Boss, I'm buying this brother a drink. Give this man another bottle of pure water, a plate of compressed biscuits, and a plate of fennel beans." Information is not free these days. The rat-mustached man nodded, and then continued. Today our squad went wandering in Chiyu City looking for electronic parts. Who would have thought we would happen to meet the big heads Luo Ying and Luo Zhu, and the ancient dressed ghost floating behind them. Chiyu City, I heard that several second-order zombies are entrenched there. You guys are pretty gutsy to dare to venture there. The rat-mustached man separated the skin and meat of the fennel beans, first ate the skin, then the meat, took a sip of white wine, and finally smiled bitterly. There are the most resources there. High risk, high reward. The two big shots are indeed as formidable as rumored. They have eyes that can see through, and not a single zombie hidden in the dark can escape their blades. From a high spot, I could see two second-order zombies ambushing on the side. Normally, the two big shots wouldn't notice, and I was about to warn them. Yet, as if they had seen the zombies long before, they darted over and killed the two zombies. Someone exclaimed, "Those are second-order zombies. Aren't Luo Ying and Luo Zhu only first-order?" Since the emergence of the enhancer system nearly 3 months ago, no human has broken through to the second order. After a human absorbed a brain core once, their body needed to fully adapt and go through a cooling-off period before the next brain core absorption could take place. Luo Ying had repeatedly come forward to advise the enhancers not to neglect the cooling-off period, but there were always arrogant enhancers who thought Luo Ying's success was merely luck. They did not listen to him and continued to absorb brain cores, causing their bodies to explode eventually. Humans absorb energy through their bodies, and zombies absorb energy through their brains. Thus zombies do not have a cooling-off period. This led to the emergence of second-order zombies, but no second-order enhancers. Thankfully, second-order zombies still couldn't break through the lines of defense in the safe zones. That's why I said they are big shots. Just a few days ago, an 8-person squad made up entirely of enhancers encountered a second-order zombie, and eventually, only 2 of them survived. The remaining 6 were either eaten or turned into zombies. Those 2 casually took out 2 second-order zombies each. Not first-order any longer. The rat-mustached man pointed at the detector and said, "I saw them absorb the 2 second-order brain cores and become second-order enhancers." The detector can roughly determine which level a zombie or an enhancer belongs to, and its standard equipment for rescue teams. Everyone sighed. The gap in combat prowess was too wide. It seemed that the Luo siblings' definition of first order and the public's understanding of first order were not the same concept. Although the enhancers were far apart and could not directly compete, making it difficult to determine rank, Luo Ying and Luo Zhu were without question the undisputed first and second best humans, respectively. The only argument was who was the first. Now that the siblings have become unprecedented second-order enhancers, the gap is even wider. Looking at the current situation, there are more people who support Luo Ying as the number 1 in combat strength, mainly because Luo Ying is more famous. He became the first enhancer 3 months ago and established the first batch of enhancers. Many enhancers in the safe zones have received his help now. It's safe to say that he can call the shots and switch the upper echelon of the safe zones at will. Perhaps because Luo Ying was too dazzling, Luo Zhu wasn't very noticeable, and everyone's impression of the lovely girl remained as Luo Ying's follower. SEARH the NO circumflex velfire.net. Luo Zhu was only powerful because she was under her brother's long-term guidance and was certainly not as powerful as Luo Ying. By the way, what exactly is the ghost following the Luo siblings? I heard that it has been following them since before the apocalypse. The zombie virus and the enhancers could be explained by science, but Zhongli's existence truly belonged to the realm of mystery, and none of the safe zones could explain it. I saw the ghost holding a tower with one hand and dressed in ancient clothes. It might be the Luo family's ancestor who has returned from the dead. That does make sense. Since it can't be explained with existing knowledge, everyone accepted this unscientific explanation in the field of mystery. In Chiyu City, Zhongli, oblivious that he was being referred to as the ancestor of the Luo family, was praising Luo Zhu. Pretty good, you've reached the foundation establishment stage. Luo Zhu sat quietly on a pile of stones, placing her dagger on her thigh and gently wiping the blood on it. The moonlight pouring down made her skin seem to glow. It was ethereal and was a rare beautiful scene in this apocalyptic world. She smiled slightly, not saying a word. The ancestral pagoda beside Luo Ying comforted him. Don't be too downhearted, having reached the 9th layer of qi cultivation in 3 months, you have been very diligent. Luo Ying thought to himself, I'm not downhearted, why do you provide unnecessary comfort? At this moment, Luo Ying was carrying 2 systems. He was a 2nd-order enhancer and a qi cultivation 9th layer cultivator. Luo Zhu was the same, but stronger than her brother. She was a 2nd-order enhancer and a foundation establishment stage cultivator. If the siblings joined forces, they would dare to fight even a 3rd-order zombie. However, there was quite a gap between their current strength and being able to defeat a group of 4th-order whale zombies. Chapter 129 to 129, Tide of Corpses. Chapter 129, Chapter 129, Tide of Corpses. In these 3 months, Zhongli had many wild ideas, trying to find a way for Luo Ying to quickly defeat the whale zombie, such as learning the corpse-driving technique to control zombies. Ideally, Luo Ying could lead a 1,000,000-strong zombie army in battle, forming a killing formation. Every whale zombie, shark zombie, all would perish. Alas, Luo Ying was just a qi cultivation practitioner at the 9th level. Not even to mention controlling 1,000,000, even controlling 100 corpses would overestimate his capabilities. Or he could learn the space summoning technique, summoning mystical beasts from the 9 states, summoning even one creature from the body integration realm could potentially solve the problem. But Zhongli quickly dismissed this idea, because the beasts summoned could not interfere with this world. What about establishing a country and letting Luo Ying be the king, imbued with national fortune? That won't work either. The addition of national fortune has a prerequisite, search the novel ir.net. Over 90% of the populace of the country must be cultivators. Otherwise, it would be impossible for the national fortune to increase the king's cultivation level. In the end, Zhongli thought of a method, setting traps. In a few days, when Luo Ying reaches the foundation establishment stage, the brother and sister could join forces and set up a chain-killing formation. As long as preparations are adequate, even a foundation establishment stage cultivator's killing formation could kill a nascent soul stage creature, let alone a 4th-tier zombie inferior to the nascent soul stage. Setting traps and poison are the most common tactics used in the 9 states to defeat those stronger than oneself. According to Zhongli's calculations, at least 100,000 first-class brain cores and 500 second-class brain cores are needed for this huge formation. If more brain cores were available, the success rate would be even higher. The number of brain cores the siblings have collected so far falls far short of this figure. Another difficulty in setting up this killing formation is that it is hard to ensure that the whale zombies gather together. However, according to Luo Ying, the whale zombies will reappear in a month, attacking the human safe zone and causing massive casualties. This time the whale zombies will emerge in groups, offering a good opportunity to annihilate them. Zhongli noticed that the Tower of the Sky, Fan Tian, had something on his mind recently and asked, "What's wrong? Want to return to the 9 states?" Fan Tian shook his tower body. "No, I want to go back and see my members of Buddha land." Quote, Zhongli had an idea. "Can you transform those 6th-tier zombies and get them over here?" Fan Tian negated this idea. Transforming them isn't difficult, just need a voice to do, but there are no 6th-tier zombies nearby. Otherwise, after 10 years of the apocalypse, there would be no room for humans and zombies to fight. A 6th-tier zombie would have destroyed this planet long ago. And I can't use the space-time Dao to transport the 6th-tier zombies here. With a good solution failing, Zhongli shook his head regretfully. "If you want to go, go ahead." "Thank you, Zhong Human Emperor." Fan Tian thanked Zhongli for his trust. Human Emperor Zhong Human Emperor Human Emperor. Zhongli seemed to remember something, glanced at Luo Ying, who was practicing the immovable Ming King Law, said a few words to Fan Tian, who then vibrated his body and teleported to a planet thousands of light years away. The zombie tide is 2 days away, Zhongli muttered to himself. If there is a time when zombies gather the most, it must be during the zombie tide. Zhongli plans to set up a small killing formation with a few brain cores along the necessary route of the zombie tide, annihilating the tide at once and collecting a large number of brain cores. According to Luo Ying's recollection, a zombie tide will appear 2 days later, passing through Qiyu City, overrunning the fortune-coming district, and shocking the world. No one expected the existence of a zombie tide, for no tide has ever appeared before. They mistakenly believed that humans could always defeat zombies, as long as the whale zombies don't come. Nobody expected something like a zombie tide. The walls of the safe zone could ward off individual zombies, but they couldn't stop zombies from building ladders with their bodies. But in this world, Luo Ying has already warned each safe zone about the existence of zombie tides, prompting them to take more precautions when constructing safe zones. Humankind does have methods to deal with zombie tides. Their hot weapons don't work against 4th-tier zombies, but are markedly effective against ordinary zombies and zombie tides composed of 1st and 2nd-tier zombies. As for those who don't believe and think he is just sensationalizing, Luo Ying can do nothing about that. They are beyond saving, let them face their doom. The killing formation can't be set up near the fortune-coming district. Luo Ying definitively stated that there is no need for guarantees, such a thing is bound to happen. He understood these people too well, to expect them to abide by morality is absolutely ridiculous. So Zhongli chose to set up a small killing formation in Qiyu City. Mr. Zhang, can I place it here? Move a step to the left, bend down, and place the brain core. This brain core cannot be used, its energy is too much, it will disrupt the balance of the formation, switch it with the brain core at the bottom of your backpack. Do not place it on the ground, go upstairs, place it on the roof. Place it in the position of Kun. What, you don't know what Kun is? Step back 3 steps and bury it 1 centimeter in the ground. Don't place the 2nd-tier brain core there, 2nd-tier brain cores are precious. What, you said if we don't use a 2nd-tier brain core, what will we use as the formation I? Of course, we will use you as the formation I. Zhang Li instructed Luo Ying and Luo Zhu, and after half a day's work, a decent killing formation was finally set up. Finished. Brother Mouse, is Qiyu City really safe? A young man stepped into Qiyu City and felt a chill down his spine. Thinking about the horrible legends about this place, a 2nd-tier zombie if they encountered one, their entire team would be done for. Of course it's safe. There were a total of 7 2nd-tier zombies in Qiyu City, all of them were killed by the great Luo Ying and Luo Zhu. I witnessed it personally. Now, only 1st-tier zombies remain in Qiyu City. The whiskered man said assuredly. But, didn't you tell us in the bar that the 2 leaders only killed 2 2nd-tier zombies? A little brother asked, stunned. The 7 2nd-tier zombies were all wiped out, their reputation is really not just a bluff. Of course I lied to them. Qiyu City has so many good things. If that bunch knew that Qiyu City no longer has any 2nd-tier zombies, wouldn't they swarm over? His regret echoed in the whiskered man, he drank too much deceptive liquor. When he was drunk, he wanted to show off that he had seen the 2 leaders. But if he was to tell the process, he couldn't avoid mentioning that the 2 leaders had killed the 2nd-tier zombies. Luckily, he reacted in time, he told 9 truths and 1 lie, only lying about the crucial part of the number. Otherwise there would be more than just the 2 of them here today. Brother Mouse, there's good stuff here. Look, there's food, lots of food, it's not even expired, we can exchange a lot of contribution points for these. And here, a solar charger. We're really lucky, we didn't encounter a single zombie. The little brother laughed cheerfully. With a pat on his backpack, he felt overjoyed. This trip was a huge harvest indeed, it was worth it. Yes, we are indeed, Brother Mouse echoed casually but stopped halfway, feeling that something was off. He had been so exhilarated that he didn't notice the problem. This place was a fallen region, how could there not be any zombies? Although the 2 leaders were efficient, they only focused on killing the 1st-tier zombies and have never been heard to kill ordinary zombies. He heard a commotion in the distance, peeked over, and turned white. A sea of corpses. Chapter 130 to 130, Killing Formation Punishes the Corpse. Chapter 130. Chapter 130, Killing Formation Punishes the Corpse. What Mouse Bro saw was a scene that no human in this world had ever witnessed. The spacious streets were packed with zombies, flooding into the city from all directions. Their eyes were blood red, saliva dribbling out, and their jaws constantly gnashing, which sent shivers down anyone's spine. Some zombies were incredibly strong, inserting their limbs into walls and climbing up high-rise buildings. Others were jumping around on rooftops, resembling frogs. The zombies, as if commanded, were collectively rushing towards a specific target, merely passing through Ziyu City. The detector incessantly beeped. First-order zombies, first-order zombies, first-order zombies. Mouse Bro's heart was trembling, his hands restlessly shifting around. A single sweep of the detector could discover dozens of first-order zombies. What was even more terrifying was that the second-order zombies were also among the horde, and they weren't few in number. SEAHTHE novel F. IR.net. Impossible. Second-order zombies have always been dominant beings. They would never stay together with regular and first-order zombies. Mouse Bro, the detector is broken, the underling stiffly said. He wanted to crack a smile, mocking himself for buying a fake product, but he just couldn't laugh. The detector says there's a third-order zombie. It was a huge white elephant. Each step it took seemed to make the earth quake. It effortlessly crushed any cars blocking its path into scrap metal. The other zombies shied away from it, not daring to approach, but still compelled to follow it. The zombies' hierarchical order was very strict. High-order zombies could command low-order ones, and the lower-order zombies had no choice but to obey. High-order zombies marshaled the lower ones to break through humans' safe zones, and that's how zombie tides formed. You can still escape now. A dreadful ghostly figure appeared behind Mouse Bro and his underling. Mouse Bro jumped in fright and only relaxed after getting a good look at the figures. It's boss Luo Zhu and the Luo family's ancestor. Zhang Li wore a perplexed look. What the heck was a Luo family's ancestor? Take this route while the zombies haven't surrounded us yet. It will lead you back to the safe zone. Zhang Li pointed out a clear path for them. Is this a zombie tide? Mouse Bro recalled the concept Luo Ying had once introduced and realized what the zombie army was. Seeing the Luo family's ancestor nod, Mouse Bro gulped, grabbed the dumbfounded underling, and fled. They had to return to the safe zone and report this. Only after Mouse Bro left, did Zhang Li speak. He's gone. You can come out now. Luo Ying emerged from another room, watching Mouse Bro's departing figure with a complicated expression. In their past life, Mouse Bro was his good friend. Despite his shifty appearance, Mouse Bro was a loyal good guy who had once saved Luo Ying. In that life, Mouse Bro and Luo Ying had come to explore Ziyu City together but were discovered by a second-order zombie. Mouse Bro had felt it was his responsibility since he was the one who brought Luo Ying there. He sacrificed his life to buy Luo Ying a chance to escape. In other words, according to the original trajectory, Mouse Bro would have been killed by that second-order zombie 3 days ago when he arrived in Ziyu City. But Luo Ying arrived ahead of schedule, killed all the second-order zombies, and saved Mouse Bro. What Luo Ying did not anticipate was that Mouse Bro would run here again before the arrival of the zombie tide. He really knew how to get into trouble. He did not wish to face Mouse Bro directly. Even though they were once good friends, those were just Luo Ying's memories. In this life, Mouse Bro treated him with idolization and a sense of distance, which made him uncomfortable. That's why he asked his sister and Mr. Zhang to deal with Mouse Bro. Zhang Li extended his divine sense to cover the entire city. Millions of zombies had already entered the array's coverage range. Activate the array. Luo Ying and Luo Zhu injected spiritual energy at the array's focal point. Their water, fire and ice spiritual roots produced spiritual energy from Dantian, spreading it throughout their bodies, and out from their palms. A large and complicated array was silently activated. It was as if an invisible thread had connected all the buried brain cores. The cores lit up one by one, weaving back and forth until they formed a large net. The horde of zombies was like fish, fated to become prey from the moment the net appeared. Had anyone been viewing the city from the sky, they would have noticed glowing spots appearing throughout the city. When connected, these spots formed a geometric pattern that was both beautiful and powerful. Not a single spot was redundant, it was the wisdom of the bygone sages personified. Even though slaughter was not advocated in Jojo Prefecture, that did not mean they did not possess large-scale arrays. On the contrary, Jojo Prefecture had plenty of such arrays. Before the Ascension to Immortality ladder disappeared, demon cultivators committed many atrocities. Many talented ones often performed blood sacrifices. It was only due to the fear that the righteous immortals would disapprove of an excessive death toll in JoJo that the demon cultivators dared not set up catastrophic arrays everywhere in JoJo. These arrays were the valuable wealth left by the demon cultivators. Invisible sword chi filled the air, emitting a chilly aura. Luo Ying and Luo Zhu acted as the major and minor focal points of the array. Luo Ying, being slightly weaker, occupied the minor spot, while Luo Zhu, being at the foundation establishment stage, occupied the major spot. The Shenluo Grand Demon Array was thus led by Luo Zhu. Sword chi dashed across the sky, decapitating zombies. The ground shook, and buildings collapsed. Each chilling sword chi accurately beheaded a zombie. Countless severed heads rolled over the ground, like a carpet of glass balls. The sword chi was so swift and fierce that the zombies did not have time to react before they were decapitated. The array moved continuously, exhausting all the spiritual energy in the brain cores. Zhongli even asked the siblings to set up a spirit gathering array beneath the city. Now, the city's spiritual energy concentration far exceeded that of other regions. The spiritual energy accumulated over these days was also put to use. The array was like a raging fire, with the spiritual energy gathered by the spirit gathering array as fuel. Its power was beyond terrifying when thrown onto it. Neither ordinary zombies, nor first or second order zombies, could withstand this long-planned single strike. If this were in JoJo, Chi cultivation and foundation establishment stage cultivators in such a situation would undoubtedly have various means like spiritual charms, spiritual treasures, etc. to protect themselves, and the array's power would be greatly reduced. But these brainless zombies did not know any such methods. When faced with the grand array left by the mighty demon cultivators of JoJo, they only had one choice: to await their slaughter. A few minutes later, the zombies fell to the ground one after another, filling the entire city with a nauseating stench of blood. Countless brain cores were hidden within the zombies' skulls, awaiting their master to reap the fruits of victory. Yet, Luo Ying and Luo Zhu did not collect these prizes. Instead, they fixed their gazes on the only remaining zombie in the area. A white elephant zombie, third order. This was the adversary they had initially expected. Zhongli did not consider including the third order zombie when he laid out the array. His only goal was to harvest a crop of second order and below zombies. This third order zombie was a perfect target for the siblings to practice. Kill, Luo Zhu softly said, her tone flat and even, entering into battle mode. Kill. Luo Ying roared as he charged towards the furious white elephant zombie. Chapter 131 to 131, The Growth of Siblings. Chapter 131, Chapter 131, The Growth of Siblings. Luo Ying was no stranger to facing the white elephant zombie. The gargantuan elephant was an escapee from a national zoo, which placed it at a major advantage in its early stages of zombification. When a whale turned into a zombie, it ruthlessly ran amok in the sea. No one was a match for it, which allowed it to ascend to the 4th level before any others. Similarly, the elephant was the largest creature on land. Its size increased dramatically after it became a zombie. With one swipe of its trunk or a chomp of its jaws, a person was no more. In the previous life, the elephant was the first land-dwelling zombie to please the 3rd level, surpassing any humans in pace of evolution. A 3rd-level zombie held considerable sway over other zombies, being able to rally a massive zombie army and overrun humans. That was the first zombie tide faced in human history, the white elephant zombie tide. In the previous life, the fortune-coming district faced the first zombie tide and became the first secure area to be overrun. Luo Ying was among the few survivors of that calamity. Later, Luo Ying moved to other safe zones. The second safe zone succumbed to internal power struggles, using the threat of zombies invading as leverage, a plan that backfired resulting in actual invasion. This zone also became a breeding ground for zombies, forcing Luo Ying to escape once again. He went to the next safe zone, where the 3rd area experienced infighting among arms dealers. Firearms were minimally effective against zombies, but deadly for humans. A lot of casualties resulted from the infighting, and the fresh scent of blood attracted a siege of zombies, leading to this safe zone's fall as well. The 4th one, the 5th one. After the 5th safe zone's fall, Luo Ying felt the heavens were against him. Trouble seemed to find him wherever he went. He decided to establish his own safe zone, naively named One Zone, to test if calamity would befall it. Kill. Luo Ying faced off against the white elephant zombie with practiced ease. In his last life, after he ascended to the King of Shadows, he personally killed the zombie, which by then had reached level 5. The white elephant roared, stomping its feet, causing the ground to crack, fuming with rage. The zombie army that it painstakingly built was eradicated by 2 humans who glimmered with golden light, without even understanding how. And it was a total wipeout. Luo Ying and Luo Zhu took the 3rd-level zombie seriously, employing the immovable Ming King Law to fortify their bodies. An elephant trunk was even more nimble than a human hand. Luo Ying barely dodged, but Luo Zhu took the full brunt. Compared to Luo Ying, Luo Zhu had less battle experience. Fortunately, the immovable Ming King Law at the Foundation establishment stage was potent. Luo Zhu also formed an icy armor on her body surface, allowing her to withstand the blow. However, she wouldn't be able to take much more of this. But Luo Ju's battle experience grew rapidly, her petite figure moved like a phantom, making her elusive. The elephant's trunk could no longer hit her. Zhang Li was confident that, had Luo Zhu not died on the first day in her previous life, she would have accomplished much more than Luo Ying. Seizing the opportunity, Luo Zhu charged with her dagger directly into the elephant's eye, impairing half of its vision. She tried to pull it out but it was jammed inside. Although the white elephant didn't feel pain, it was enraged. The animal swung its trunk towards Luo Zhu who was mounted on its head before Luo Ying could aid her. At that moment, Luo Zhu's hand turned ice cold. Untimely ice crystals emerged on this hot summer day, condensing into an icy sword. Luo Zhu parried the trunk with the sword. She raised her hand, the sharp icy blade cut through the trunk. By this time, Luo Zhu had switched to a new cultivation technique, perpetual frozen territory, which Zhang Li spent 10 days to create and was worth millions of origin points in the system. Perfecting this technique, one could freeze all molecules in their consciousness, stopping their movement, which was another way of pausing time. It could also manipulate in the opposite way, by increasing temperature and accelerating molecular movements within oneself, pushing molecules to approach the predetermined speed limit of the world, the speed of light. Everyone knew that an ice spiritual root cultivator was proficient in SEARH, the novel Fire, Ada at ice element cultivation techniques, but were unaware that the essence of an ice spiritual root was actually temperature, or rather, the change in microscopic particle movement speed. Of course, Zhang Li knew some predecessors must have discerned the essence of the ice spiritual root. He guessed that it wasn't renamed to temperature spiritual root simply because it didn't sound as good. However, Luo Zhu still had a long way to go to fully master the technique. The possibility of perfecting it at the Transcendence Tribulation stage was negligible, at least until she reached immortality. Luo Zhu had initially begun to exhibit the power of this technique, mastering control over her own temperature and creating objects with ice. Luo Zhu seized the opportunity and slashed off a part of the elephant's trunk. The white elephant lifted its front leg, attempting to crush Luo Zhu. Without panicking, Luo Zhu formed a hand seal and used the corpse driving technique to control the white elephant for a split second. Taking advantage of this, Luo Ying activated his Vajra body, shining like a golden giant, and rammed into the white elephant. The white elephant, standing on only 2 feet and temporarily bereft of its divine sense, was toppled by Luo Ying's thrust. Luo Ying's cultivation technique was the Bright King Sutra. Zhang Li and the Buddhist pagoda found Luo Ying to be extremely talented in Buddhist law, understanding it almost instinctively. Therefore, they decided he should delve deeper into Buddhist law. Enhancing the immovable Ming King law was just a small part of the Bright King Sutra. This sutra was actually a supreme cultivation technique leading directly to immortality. The white elephant rose and charged into several walls. Luo Ying met its charge head-on, stepped in an 8 diagrams formation, gripped the elephant's ivory, and used the reciprocal force to topple the 3rd-level white elephant using his 2nd-level strengthened body, causing it to snap its own tusk with its force. This was Zhang Li's beginner's gift. 4 tails to turn 1,000 jinns. He gave this cultivation technique, which specialized in turning the weak into the strong, to the sibling pair. Luo Ying used the tusk to pin the white elephant's trunk to the ground. The elephant squirmed helplessly, struggling to get up. Luo Zhu harnessed her cultivation technique and the icy sword was now even sharper. She attempted to decapitate the elephant, but the elephant's thick skin and dense bones were too tough for the sword to get through. Seeing the elephant trying to get up, she plunged the sword into the white elephant's ear canal, touching its brain nucleus. With a slight force, she severed the connections between the brain nucleus and the white elephant, resulting in the elephant's immediate death. There were several flesh threads connecting the brain nucleus and zombies. Breaking these threads meant severing the connection between the brain nucleus and zombies, causing the zombies' death. Luckily, as the white elephant's body enlarged, so did its ear canal, or she wouldn't have been able to plunge the sword in. The white elephant's skin and bones were extremely tough. Even after its death, it took all kinds of weapons wielded by the siblings to crack open its skull and extract the 3rd-level brain nucleus. With the 3rd-level brain nucleus, we're more likely to defeat the horde of whales, Zhang Li said, nodding with satisfaction. Within the city, there were still 1,000,000 skulls. If they had to crack every skull to find a brain nucleus, it would take them an entire week. Thankfully, under Zhang Li's divine sense, he could clearly see which skulls contained 1st-level and 2nd-level brain nuclei. There are more than 10,000 1st-level brain nuclei. Luo Ying frowned. I know a zombie tide will occur again, but it's a shame that I don't know the exact time and place. It won't be easy to institute the same plan like this time. We could buy some in the safe zones, but they may occur during transport. It's not certain we'll be able to collect them all in a month. In the post-apocalyptic world, information transmission was inconvenient and Luo Ying couldn't possibly IMO the specific information about all the zombie tides in his previous life. Zhang Li shook his head. I've seen several zombies on the verge of evolving to third level. They are likely the sources of the zombie tide. I can estimate their trajectories and targets. Luo Ying was rejuvenated, then there's no problem. The victory this time greatly boosted the siblings' confidence. The marvel of the formations was something Luo Ying could never have imagined in his previous life. Jojo was truly remarkable. Chapter 132 to 132, Remarks on Product Launch. Chapter 132, Remarks on Product Launch. I have a lot to share with you all. Usually, I'm silently watching through the screen. I see praises, I see criticisms, but I seldom speak out. I'm taking the opportunity now to voice my thoughts. I noticed many of you mentioned that the protagonist reaching the Mahayana level in just 500 years is too quick, that life is too short, and so on. To be honest, I don't usually read standard cultivation novels, and my main impression of cultivation comes from city-based cultivation tales. As you know, in such stories, the cultivation speed is as quick as drinking water, one achieves ascension in just a few years. That's why I don't have much concept of time. With a divine spiritual root and infinite Taoist body, I thought 500 years wasn't too quick. It's a normal pace. I didn't expect many to think that the cultivation speed is too fast. As for concepts like mythical Da Luo, I only knew about them from the comments. In terms of the powers of various realms, I initially only considered divinity transformation, body integration and tribulation crossing. I thought given the vastness of the universe, it wouldn't be too much for a cultivator in body integration realm to explode a planet, right? I hadn't thought about what other realms would be like. This led to the insufficient display of powers from the chi cultivation stage to the nascent soul stage. There is also the issue at the very beginning with the Zhang family that sparked a lot of controversy. Many felt that Zhang Li shouldn't have acted that way, and that he should have just killed Zhang Yixing instead of reporting to the authorities. When I was designing that plot, I considered, wouldn't it be satisfying if the bad guys could be caught and punished by exploiting loopholes in the system rather than using force? But now, it seems, the reaction isn't very positive. They think that, as a human emperor, one should be decisive in killing. The novel fire net. Some also find it absurd that someone would abide by laws in the cultivation world. My idea was, as a transmigrator, when one arrives in the cultivation world and turns from a law-abiding citizen into a powerful killer, has the transmigrator changed the cultivation world, or has he been assimilated by the cultivation world? If one is assimilated by the cultivation world and changes their original intentions, can they still be considered powerful? In short, I've thought a lot, but it seems like my train of thought doesn't align with many, or maybe it's due to my penmanship. Also, about the updates, you may have noticed my usual update time. Only 2 chapters are out by almost midnight. I have no backlog of chapters. When I was notified to put them online, I was panicking. Unless something unexpected happens, there will be 4 chapters today. I'll update during the day, striving to finish the zombie world. I will gradually repay the debt for the tips I've received. Last but not least, I ask for your first subscription. Chapter 133 to 133, Richest Man Luo Ying. Chapter 133. Chapter 133, Richest Man Luo Ying. Brother Rat, what's the matter? The younger brother saw Brother Rat lost in thought. After Brother Rat returned to the fortune-coming district, he immediately reported about the horde of zombies. The leaders took it very seriously. Although Brother Rat mentioned that Luo Ying and Luo Zhu were in Chiyu City, the leaders did not think that just 2 enhanced humans could deal with the horde alone. Brother Rat himself also reported that the detectors had identified third-tier zombies within the horde. Brother Rat was the most familiar with the situation, so the leaders hired him at a high price in contribution points to go to Chiyu City and investigate in depth. He was not particularly outstanding among the enhanced humans, so if the leaders were to hinder him, his life would become significantly harder. Brother Rat dared not refuse the leader's intentions, so he had no choice but to reluctantly agree. The leadership didn't actually intend to send Brother Rat to his death. They dispatched several enhanced humans to assist him. Brother Rat's squad, fully armed, drove towards Chiyu City. Just a moment ago, 2 figures passed by. Brother Rat felt that it was Luo Ying and Luo Zhu. He rubbed his eyes. When he didn't see anyone, he thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. It's nothing. Arriving in Chiyu City, the squad, which was prepared to risk everything, was astonished. They had their mouths wide open for half a day, thinking they were dreaming. The zombies seemed to have been through a one-sided battle. Millions of headless zombies filled the streets. It was incredibly shocking, but the most eye-catching was a white elephant, like a small hill, blocking the street. The whole city was completely silent. "This is divine," Brother Rat muttered, and all his team members nodded subconsciously. SEARH the NO circumflex velfire.net. This was certainly not something that could be achieved by human means. Command Center, this is the temporary reconnaissance squad. Brother Rat quickly picked up the communicator, reporting the situation to the leaders, a smile of joy on his face. This was like picking up contribution points without any risk. Proceed. Quote, "We have discovered millions of zombies in Chiyu City." The voice on the other end of the communicator hurriedly asked, "What's the route of advancement? How many are first-tier zombies? How many are second-tier zombies? What's the condition of the third-tier zombies, and what's their discipline?" "They are acting separately lying on the ground, so there's probably no route of advancement." Brother Rat looked at the immobile zombies and thought their discipline was beyond reproach. They were completely motionless as if ordered to do so. "What does that mean?" The leadership frowned. They had never heard of zombies sleeping and didn't understand the phrase, acting separately. Were the zombies utilizing tactics? This was a significant issue. If true, they would have to revise their existing countermeasures. Brother Rat organized his thoughts and tried to describe the facts objectively and impartially, prompting the leadership to believe. There are millions of dead zombies in Chiyu City. The cause of death is decapitation, probably at the hands of Luo Ying and Luo Zhu. In his heart, Brother Rat added, and the spirit of the Luo family's ancestor. Of course, the leaders didn't believe such a fanciful story. There were trusted subordinates in the squad whose answers were almost identical to Brother Rat's, even more exaggerated. It took a while for the leaders to accept this reality. From the heart, they praised Luo Ying and Luo Zhu. Damn, seeing the zombies, Brother Rat was overjoyed. Without the threat of the zombies, Chiyu City was as precious as a piece of fat meat. Who knew how many valuable things were buried in the ruins? He'd heard there was even a supercomputer here. He couldn't move it alone, and even with a group of people it seemed they still couldn't move it. But those were minor issues. The corpse of the white elephant alone could be sold for a massive amount of contribution points. This was a third-level zombie. Its skin, flesh, and bones were of extraordinarily high value, either for research or for making weapons. If the two big shots didn't care about this carcass, they did. Brother Rat was rubbing his hands in excitement. Following the big shots wouldn't just allow them to sip the soup, but to eat the meat as well. Fortune Coming District, the Contribution Points Exchange Center. "Stop picking your tasks, you always fail anyway. Look who's coming." Someone excitedly called his companion. The exchange center issues various tasks, such as finding relatives, cleaning up the second-tier zombies in Chiyu City, etc. Upon completion, you can earn contribution points. These tasks are generally quite difficult and require careful selection, otherwise, they could prove fatal. The friend, who was interrupted and quite unhappy, argued, "What do you mean I always fail? I've been working hard. The problem is not my capabilities but the difficulty of the tasks." "Who's there?" Could it be Brother Luo Ying? Holy crap, it really is. As a man and woman entered the exchange center, the noisy crowd chose to quiet down, their heads instinctively turning to follow the sibling duo. "That must be Luo Zhu. She's adorable, not at all like her older brother." Supporters of Luo Ying objected. "Isn't Luo Ying also very all you care about his appearance? Didn't you see his masculine charisma? Is that the rumored ancestor? So young and he's already passed away, it's sad." The crowd muttered softly. "Hello there, are you here to sell items, purchase items, or submit a task?" The receptionist at the exchange center, her face red with excitement, resisted her enthusiasm as she gazed at her idol. She initially wanted to say 2 of you, but seeing Zhong Li, she reflexively changed to 3 of you. "Could you please tell me how many contribution points I have?" "Of course, please wait. Mr. Luo Ying, you have a total of 6,056,800 contribution points." The crowd gasped, frightened by the number of contribution points. "I remember that one first-tier brain core is 50 contribution points." Luo Ying didn't find his contribution points peculiar. As the name suggests, contribution points are generated based on contributions. They don't have the same value as money before the zombie crisis. Nowadays, paper money is just scrap paper that people wouldn't bother picking up. Luo Ying's contributions are immeasurable. He established the enhanced human system, disclosed the data on zombies, foretold the disaster, suggested temporarily giving up on rebuilding the nation, and set up safe zones. Plus, his latest contribution in stopping the horde, all these contributions brought Luo Ying's contribution points to a terrifying level. Luo Yin might be the wealthiest man now. "Yes, are you planning to buy up all the first-tier brain cores?" The receptionist was stunned. After confirming that she'd heard correctly, she showed Luo Ying an amiable smile and then quickly scurried to call the manager. The manager felt a great deal of pressure and called the person in charge. The person in charge was scratching his head. He was the highest-ranking person here and had no one to defer to. Buying up all the brain cores, to pay with Luo Ying's contribution points was not the issue. The problem was that their exchange center wasn't qualified to handle such a large transaction. The person in charge was contemplating what to do when someone patted his shoulder. When he looked up, he immediately stepped aside. Mr. Luo Ying, Miss Luo Zhu, and this gentleman is, an elegant middle-aged man took the place of the person in charge. Zhang Li, does the Luo family's ancestors' last name Zhang? The middle-aged man didn't mind the detail. My last name is Wang. I'm the highest-ranking officer of the Fortune-Coming District. I'm delighted to meet the heroes of all humanity. On behalf of the Fortune-Coming District, I welcome you all. In his previous life, Luo Ying had stayed in the Fortune-Coming District and knew this Officer Wang. But back then, he was too weak to meet Officer Wang, while in this life, Officer Wang personally greeted them. The environment here is not very pleasant. Would the three of you be interested in discussing things in my office? Luo Ying and Luo Zhu looked at Zhang Li. Zhang Li nodded, sure. It seemed that this Zhang Li was the main influence. Officer Wang mentally upgraded Zhang Li's status in his mind. Chapter 134 to 133, The Largest Hunt in Human History. Chapter 134. Chapter 133, The Largest Hunt in Human History. Buying all the brain cores, that might be. In the office, Commissioner Wang offered an apologetic smile. Of course, I don't doubt Mr. Luo Ying's financial capacity. However, as you all know, brain cores are strategic resources. If we sell them all to you, the enhancers in the Fortune-Coming District might object. Commissioner Wang heard about the deeds of these three plucky individuals from Brother Mouse. They already surpassed what science could explain, so he had to tread carefully. If he angered them with the wrong remark, it would spell disaster. Half. Quote, even half is too much unless you can tell me what these brain cores are for, Commissioner Wang probed. Are you planning to establish a safe zone? If that's the case, the Fortune-Coming District can provide other assistance. Luo Ying shook his head. You know what happened in Chiyu City. We just helped your district solve the zombie tide, Zhang Li said, observing Brother Mouse's actions through his divine sense. Commissioner Wang was surprised, not knowing how Zhang Li knew what he knew. SEAHTHE Novelfire net. Zhang Li continued, moreover, if we want to defeat the zombies, we need a large number of brain cores. Commissioner Wang fell silent for a while, then finally spoke. When I say you three are heroes of humanity, I mean it. I trust you, the Fortune-Coming District has 6,000 tier I brain cores, we will sell 2/3 to you. As Commissioner Wang finished speaking, it felt like a huge weight lifted from his heart, a sense of relief washing over him. In a month, you'll see the result of today's decision, Zhang Li said, grinning. 4,000 brain cores would save them a lot of trouble. It was long after Luo Ying and Luo Zhu left that Commissioner Wang suddenly slapped his forehead with regret. I forgot to ask about Zhang Li's background. I wonder if our ancestor, Old Man Wang, could have left some revelation. Over this month, Luo Ying and Luo Zhu went around setting traps for the zombies. Anytime a Tier 3 zombie appeared that could trigger a zombie tide and breach a safe zone, they would encounter a killing formation before reaching the safe zone. The Tier I and Tier 2 zombies were all killed, leaving only the bare Tier 3 zombie to be battered. Luo Ying once warned the SAT zone to be cautious ot the zombie tide. However, when it reached the time he predicted, not a single zombie shadow was seen. They thought Luo Ying was spreading baseless fears. But after witnessing the shocking scene of the million headless zombies, no one in the safe zone dared to question Luo Ying anymore. The siblings also went to various safe zones to buy brain cores, but not all the commissioners of the safe zones were as trusting of the siblings as Commissioner Wang. Some safe zones were only willing to sell 1,000 brain cores, and there were even safe zones asking if they could sell their brain cores to them. In the end, they still accumulated more brain cores from the zombie tides than they bought. The surface of the sea was calm with no ripples, like a dead pool, but everyone knew that the sea was hiding the most terrifying zombies. The small squad stationed by the sea watched the water and chatted idly. What rank do you think whale zombies are? Unlike the later stages of the apocalypse, currently, the safe zones openly took the threat of the ocean seriously, sending squads to report any activity by the sea at all times. Some people thought it was a boring question. Didn't Luo Ying already say that? 4th tier, what is there to talk about? I think you all are glorifying Luo Ying too much. He was just lucky and reckless, daring to be the first to absorb brain cores. If I'd been more courageous then, absorbed the cores, I would have been the big boss. Makes sense. You can't fully trust Luo Ying's words. He was only a TIR enhancer at the time, without a detector. How could he determine the whale zombies were TIR4? He's got better vision than machines. We're all TIR enhancers now. Can anyone here determine the whale zombies' rank by mere sight? What can we do if he's luckier than us? Besides, he's got a cute and pretty little sister to please the eyes. Guys, watch out, there's movement on the sea surface. Upon hearing this, the team members' hearts leapt into their throats. They no longer cared about their discussion and focused on the ocean. The sea appeared to be influenced by something, suddenly causing huge waves and gusts of wind, forming whirlpools. The zombie feared by humanity the most, emerged from the whirlpool, letting out a harrowing hum, like a death knell marking the doom of mankind. Yongju area, this is the ocean observation team. We've spotted whale zombies. I repeat, we've spotted whale zombies. The team leader grabbed the communicator, shouting urgently. Yongju area confirmed. The number. The detector indicates they are 4th tier zombies. 4th tier they've seen us distance 1000 meters 500. Ocean observation team, respond if you hear this. Ocean observation team, respond if you hear this. On the other end of the communicator, only a half-severed arm remained firmly gripping the microphone, unable to respond ever again. Dozens of whale zombies flapped their wings, dancing in the sky, as if celebrating the imminent extinction of mankind. Their relentless cries could be heard hundreds of miles away, making the people in the safe zone shudder. They're coming. Compared to the early days of the apocalypse, the whale zombies had become stronger, but they had always remained tier -4. That was, in a way, good news. However, none of the safe zones reacted positively to this. TIR4 or tier 5, could they stop a tier 4 attack? The closest to the sea was Yongju area, and that's where the whale zombies headed. The Yongju area was on standby, their stares fixed on the approaching whale zombies. As the whale zombies danced wildly, they passed over an empty area, where a massive ice spear suddenly appeared out of nowhere and descended from the sky, piercing their fleshy wings. Like divine punishment, it nailed the guilty ones to the earth, leaving them to suffer dehydrating torture, dying from exhaustion. However, the power of the ice spears wasn't strong enough, not capable of pinning the whale zombies permanently to the ground. They exerted their strength, trying to break free from the ice spears. The Yongju area military swore that the scene they saw would never blur in their memories. An ancient and magnificent formation appeared both above in the sky and below on the ground. Anyone who saw it would be fascinated by the structural aesthetics embedded within, the accumulation of history and wisdom. Although they didn't understand the principle, nor the meaning of formation patterns, everyone could sense the overwhelming power it concealed, a force far more domineering than the brute strength of the whale zombies. The appearance of the formation caused a dramatic change in the environment. Dark clouds gathered, becoming dark and gloomy. The formation, composed of 150,000 points of light, was even more noticeable, like a beacon in the dark, shining brighter than stars and more inspirational. The amount of materials used in this formation exceeded Zhang Li's expectations. In just one short month, they collected 150,000 TIR brain cores, 800 TIER2 brain cores, and 6 TIER3 brain cores. If these brain cores were used for other purposes, they definitely couldn't defeat the TIER4 zombies. But under the organization of the formation, each brain core exerted a force beyond its original spiritual energy. Activate the formation. Zhang Li said indifferently, as under his all-encompassing divine sense covering the entire planet, none of the whale zombie actions were hidden. Right from the moment planning began a month ago, the fate of the whale zombies was predetermined. Two formations above and below firmly trapped the whale zombies between them, as if lying in wait, holding their strength, biding their time until the whale zombies stepped into the trap. The whale zombies thought humans were the prey, but in the eyes of the determined, they were the most significant prey. This was to be the greatest hunt in human history. Now that the prey had taken their place, the two formations began to turn gradually. The Samsara Grinding Formation, Chapter 135 to 134, Despair Descends. Chapter 135, Chapter 134, Despair Descends. Legend has it that there exist vast grinding stones as heavy as the earth in the underworld, capable of crushing any soul into fragments, regardless of how powerful they've become. The reincarnation grindstone formation Zhang Li taught the siblings manifests this folktale. However, what Zhang Li currently guided the brother and sister to set up was an understated variant. The reincarnation grindstone formation seemed like a world of its own, an area separate from the rest of the world's environment. Its gravity was 10 times stronger, flattening the whales and making it difficult for them to even raise their fins. Once again, ruthless ice spears appeared in the sky. With the extraordinary acceleration provided by gravity, they rushed towards their target with a frightening speed. The soldiers of the Yangjiu area only managed to see a white flash before the whales, which were about to break free from the ice spears, were pinned back to the ground with new spears. SEARH the novel fire. NET. This time, mounted even deeper. There was no way the whales could struggle free. These previously unbeatable whales were now like fish on a chopping board, thrashing their tails but utterly helpless, ready to be slaughtered. The upper and lower formation grinded endlessly, the suffocating pressure inexorably squeezing the whales, reducing them little by little into shards. New formations appeared in the sky, stirring thunder and fire. Roaring thunder descended like simultaneously fired cannons, its power surpassing any cannon fire. Though the 4th-level zombies were tough, the army's weapons couldn't penetrate them. Meanwhile, Yangjiu area's army discovered that the explosive thunder had split the whales' hide. Huff huff. Luo Ying panted heavily. Even though he had reached the Foundation establishment stage, he was still remarkably fatigued. However, his eyes were full of light, filled with vigor. Finally, we activated the Grand Formation. This formation was designed to kill those at the nascent soul stage. Although the formation chiefly drew from the spiritual energy stored in the cores, the monks also needed to pour in a start-up amount of spiritual energy. Even with this, it almost drained the early-stage cultivators of Foundation establishment. Though Luo Zhu was drained of power, an unusual flush of excitement had arisen in her. Her once pale cheeks now flushed a delicate pink. Even if she hadn't experienced the desperation of the end times as deeply as her brother, she could still conceive from his narration the kind of catastrophe these zombies would bring to humankind. Now, the most threatening whale zombies were on the verge of death. The other threatening zombies had not yet matured, so the crisis would ultimately be resolved. There would no longer be the threat of families scattering, of a virgin auctioned off for a box of biscuits and water, of living people merely waiting for death. No one wanted to confront the zombies. It was indeed nice to play the hero in a world teetering on survival, but who'd prefer an apocalypse deprived of games, novels, comics, and TV dramas over a peaceful era? Even the amateurs of Yangjiu area's army could see that in front of the formation, the whale was utterly defenseless. Thunder split the whale's skin, gravity crushed their bones to dust, and their cores were exposed to the air. More than a dozen whale cores had already been pulverized, and the leakage of their spiritual energy further enhanced the might of the formation. Every time they had to contend with a horde of zombies, they had to worry about the cores. They could only sever the zombies' heads, which limited the power of the formation. This time, however, the three had no intention of leaving the cores behind. To kill the whales in the formation was already difficult enough. If they got greedy for the cores and reduced the formation's power, it would be inauspicious if the whales broke from the formation. Suddenly, a whale tore free from the ice spear's bounds. Its massive body thrashed like a fish tossed ashore, the earth rocked and the ground cracked. Zhang Li frowned. This whale rolled over to its companions, not to save them, but to eat their cores. With every core it swallowed, it regained some strength. It would then roll to its next companion and repeat the process. Zhang sir. Luo Ying's heart rose to his throat as he saw what was happening, and Luo Zhu also looked anxiously at Zhang Li. The Grand Formation was now a death trap. Anyone who entered would die. Even if the brother and sister wanted to stop it, they could do nothing about an enormous whale weighing almost 1,000 tons. In order to stop this whale, they would have to dismantle the Grand Formation, smash the cores themselves, and deny the zombie whale of its source of strength, but many whales in the formation were still fiercely alive. If they dismantled the Grand Formation, all remaining whales would immediately counterattack. This particular whale was undoubtedly a misfit among misfits, endlessly consuming the cores of its companions. The whales that lost their cores died, but the sight didn't bring joy to anyone at the scene. The more cores it consumed, the greater the likelihood it could evolve. Focus the thunder on this beast. The thunder pounding the whales originated from the second formation, the Demon Extermination Thunder Formation. The two siblings were able to manipulate the formation to increase the chances of thunder striking down on this particular whale. Employing all their spiritual energy, the two controlled the Demon Extermination Thunder Formation. Boom, boom, boom. The frequency of thunder strikes changed, with roughly half that should have hit other whales landing on this one. As a result, this whale was so brightly illuminated that it was difficult to look directly at it. This whale endured the booms of thunder and oppression of gravity, steadily moving its body. It even flipped itself, so its belly was the target of the thunder. Even though the thunder posed a threat, it endangered its brain core only temporarily. It maneuvered its hefty body around, continuing to consume the brain cores of its companions. Focus the thunder on the remaining living zombies. Zhang Li changed his order. Since they could not straightforwardly kill this whale, they decided to destroy all remaining brain cores instead. There was a speed contest happening, the speed of the thunder destroying the brain cores versus the speed of the whale consuming the brain cores. Phew, all the brain cores have finally been shattered. Luo Zhu sighed in relief. Just as she was about to share a few celebratory words with her brother, she noticed both her brother and Mr. Zhang looking grimly at the whale, who was lively only moments ago but now lay unmoving. The whale let out a whale song, its dismembered flippers visibly regrowing at a remarkable speed, its body inflating exponentially as well. It flapped its wings, allowing the thunder to strike as it pleased. The formation could no longer contain it, its gaze, filled with fury, was pinned on Luo Ying and Luo Zhu. The worst-case scenario had happened. Fifth order, Luo Ying's face became grave. There was no need for any detector, Luo Ying was far too familiar with this kind of momentum. It was reminiscent of the power that only the top-class zombies of his past life possessed. They failed to kill the zombie whale but unintentionally ended up aiding it in its evolution. A fifth-order zombie represented a formidable strength that could obliterate humanity. Even though there had been fifth-order zombies in their previous world, there had also been fifth-order enhancers among humans who could barely put up a resistance. However, now, Luo Ying and Luo Zhu were the strongest among humans, only at the second order. This gap was insurmountable. Watching the zombie whale soar towards them, Luo Ying knew that they were doomed this time. Mr. Zhang, do you think I still have a chance at rebirth? Zhang Li regretfully shook his head. The energy of the Ascension ladder fragment may not be able to save you another time. I see. Luo Ying wasn't surprised by this answer. After all, rebirth opportunities were scarce, there was no way it could be a repetitive event. He looked at his sister with pity. Despite making great efforts to save her, it turned out to be all for naught. However, Luo Zhu was content. Although her brother never explicitly told her, she was well aware of her fate from his narratives, there was never her presence, indicating her early demise in their previous world. Living for an extra 4 months in this world, she was very satisfied. Don't be too pessimistic. Zhang Li made the motion of patting Luo Ying's shoulder, though he couldn't actually touch him. From today on, you have a new title, Shadow King Buddha. Chapter 136 to 135, Shadow King Buddha. Chapter 136, Chapter 135, Shadow King Buddha. Shadow King Buddha. Luo Ying had never heard of this deity, and when did he become a Buddha himself? Doesn't like the sound of Shadow King Buddha, right? A movable Ming King Buddha sounds pretty good. How about chaotic Shadow King Buddha? Zhang Li suggested. No, this is not a name problem at all. Luo Ying and Luo Zhu were puzzled by Zhang Li's words. With a wave of his hand, Zhang Li transformed into a dignified and majestic golden Buddha statue, wearing a kasaya, holding prayer beads in his hand, his head shining bright. It appeared to be an ordinary Buddha statue, but Luo Ying felt something was off as he looked at it. Brother, have you become a Buddha? Luo Zhu blurted out. Luo Ying denied outright, how is that possible? The face of the Buddha statue was none other than Luo Ying's. This is the new image I've designed for you. You're now the Buddha that all the zombies believe in, the Shadow King Buddha. Anyway, this is currently the only way to defeat the 5th-tier zombies. Just agree to it. Although Luo Ying didn't understand the situation, he knew this was not the time for messing around. The whale was soaring towards him, so he gritted his teeth and admitted, I am the Shadow King Buddha. As he uttered these words, he also reluctantly accepted this inexplicable identity deep down. As soon as he finished speaking, an endless surge of faith power appeared, showering Luo Ying like rain and streamers, as if delighted to have finally found the source of their belief after floating around for a long time. The moment he made contact with this mysterious faith power, Luo Ying understood its use. This was a power capable of turning the tide, and it could elevate him to the 5th tier without worrying about whether his body could handle it. This was equivalent to temporarily constructing an external body of a 5th-tier enhancer, but this external body would be integrated into his own. Just when Luo Ying was about to use this power to elevate himself to a 5th-tier enhancer, Zhang Li stopped him. Rare opportunity, why not try to achieve the divinity transformation stage? Zhang Li suggested with a smile. Zhang Li had explained the concept of divinity transformation stage long ago. Initially, Luo Ying thought he was just sharing knowledge about cultivation, but now he realized that it was all leading up to this moment. Alright, the divinity transformation stage, fundamentally, meant transforming everything into the God within one's mind. The philosophy of body incorporating sect evolved from this principle. Zhang Li believed that the best kind of transformation was self-transformation, with oneself as the God in the heart. Luo Ying accepted Zhang Li's view, transformed himself into God, and used the power of faith to elevate himself to the unfamiliar divinity transformation stage. The moment Luo Ying stepped into the divinity transformation stage, he felt an overwhelmingly vast power. Even at his peak, he could not compare to this power. This was the cultivation system, far surpassing the system of the enhancers. The divinity transformation stage made Luo Ying's mental state extraordinarily powerful, and in an instant, he deduced the immovable Ming King Law to meet the level of the divinity transformation stage and effortlessly applied it. Behind Luo Ying appeared the Dharma appearance of the immovable Ming King, tall and mighty, with 4 arms and an angry expression, carrying raging fires on his back, a sharp sword in his right hand, a chain in his left hand, and 2 hands in his pocket. The rampaging whale had no fear of this suddenly appearing Dharma appearance. When it was at the 4th tier, it relied on its body to wreak havoc, unbeaten by anyone. Now, at the 5th tier, could anything possibly stand in its way? Bang! The whale crashed firmly into the Dharma appearance of the immovable Ming King, like a mad dog crashing into a wall. How could the wall possibly be damaged? The Dharma appearance didn't even budge. The immovable Ming King explained everything. It was an unshakable Dharma appearance. All 4 arms of the Dharma appearance swung simultaneously, hammering the headstrong whale onto the ground, violently throwing it, grabbing its tail and hurling it into the sky. Luo Ying leapt up, clenched his fists tightly into a hammer, gathered his strength, and slammed down, demonstrating unrivaled destructive power. The army in the distant Yangjiu area was petrified when they detected the birth of a 5th-tier zombie with their detector. Little did they know that before they even had time to prepare themselves for death, a Dharma appearance stronger than a 5th-tier zombie would appear. This was not something from the enhancer system. Their detectors couldn't measure its level, but the power of the Dharma appearance was undeniable. The Brahma Tower arrived, complaining to Zhang Li, "You just move your lips. What exactly is going on?" Luo Zhu couldn't help but ask. Her brother becoming stronger was a good thing, but neither sibling understood where this power of faith came from. "You know I'm the human emperor, right?" Luo Zhu obediently nodded, recalling that Mr. Zhang had claimed to be the human emperor Zhang when they first met, even though she had no idea what a human emperor was. Each generation of the human emperors has relied on the power of faith to become stronger. I hadn't thought of this before due to personal reasons. It was only a month ago when the Brahma Tower said it wanted to visit its Buddha land and referred to me as the human emperor that I realized I could use the power of faith. As its name suggests, the power of faith comes from faith. People in ancient times put their faith in their ancestors, gods, and Buddhas, yet putting faith into action is easier said than done. Even though you and Luo Ying have established yourselves as human heroes in the apocalypse, and your brother became the Shadow King a decade later, you didn't generate any power of faith. Partly because you didn't deliberately cultivate followers, and partly because the sentiment people hold towards you is not faith, but admiration. If you operate on a long-term basis and vigorously promote yourselves, you indeed can make people worship you and Luo Ying as gods. However, this requires a lot of time, and I guess you wouldn't fancy it. Recalling what would happen if she became some sort of goddess and how people would madly worship her, Luo Zhu felt a little awkward. People's hearts are complicated, but zombies are simple and easy to deceive. So, I thought of the Buddha land created by Brahma Tower. Although it disappeared shortly after we went back a decade, it does work. From the time the Brahma Tower escaped to you and met me, it had been 9 months according to the time in the 9 provinces, yet only a month had passed in your world. In other words, Brahma Tower was able to establish a Buddha land in just 1 month. Before Brahma Tower left, I asked it to promote Luo Ying and package him as the Shadow King Buddha. All things like the Diamond Sutra were written by the Shadow King Buddha. In this way, zombies would develop faith in the Shadow King Buddha. Quote, this time, after the conversion of the 4th, 5th, and 6th tier zombies by the Brahma Tower, considering that the 4th tier zombies were easily shaken and it couldn't move with these zombies, it let the 5th and 6th tier zombies recite sutras to the 4th tier zombies to strengthen their beliefs. Thus, once again, it easily established a Buddha land within 1 month. However, this time the zombies in the Buddha land only believe in the Shadow King Buddha, no one else. Since we can convert 4th tier zombies, why not convert these whales? SEARH the novel FIR. Ada at. Because these undead whales are not undead humans, they can't develop thoughts such as, who am I, where do I come from, where am I going, and it's hard to convert them. So now my brother has followers everywhere in the universe. Thinking of the solemn zombies chanting the name of Shadow King Buddha, Luo Zhu couldn't help laughing. Hey, I heard everything. Mr. Zhang, you've been scheming against me. Also, why are all my followers zombies, while other people's followers are all humans? The furious Shadow King Buddha, with his 4 arms, tore the whale in half and took out its brain core. Chapter 137 to 136 Settling the dust thanks to the reward from book friend Xiaoyi. Chapter 137. Chapter 136 Settling the dust thanks to the reward from book friend Xiaoyi. Thousands of light years away, a group of high-ranking zombies, unlike anything Luo Ying had seen before, sat cross-legged, unable to make the basic seal, reciting scriptures. The Buddha of Shadows, the Lord of 3,000 worlds, attains innumerable merits and is best disposed. I'll feel a response from the Buddha of Shadows. A zombie joyously announced, exactly, I feel the same. We were lost and confused. It was the messenger of the Buddha of Shadows that woke us up. We should chant sincerely and praise his greatness. The chanting grew louder, echoing throughout the universe. Presently, only zombies above the 4th level believed in the Buddha of Shadows. If all zombies believed, Luo Ying would not be at such a low stage as divinity transformation stage. The power of faith is not related to the level of believers, but to their number and sincerity. Who could have expected this whale to be a mutant, suddenly awakening to level up? Zhang Li felt helpless. He hadn't wanted to resort to such measures either. Exposure to the power of faith at an early age isn't good, as it can easily lead to dependency and hinder future development, but accidents are unavoidable. Anyway, we're all safe. Congratulations. Zhang Li clapped his hands feebly. Brahma Tower expressed concern. Those scriptures are from the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the immortal realm. Aren't you afraid they'll come after you for plagiarizing their work? Zhang Li didn't care. If they can come down here, it is all the better. I could ask them how to get to the immortal realm. Besides, this is a great and selfless act of saving billions of people. They should understand. Take them all out in one fell swoop, wipe out all the zombies. Luo Ying stopped complaining. After all, apart from his followers being zombies, he had no other losses. Gaining the power of divinity transformation stage was something many people desired but couldn't achieve. This wasn't temporary power. As long as there were zombies who believed in him, he could remain in the divinity transformation stage. In this world, he was already mighty enough to cover the sky with one hand and the earth with another. Under Zhang Li's divine sense sweep, neither those hiding underground nor those concealed in the deep sea could escape. If Luo Ying was merely a second-tier enhancer, Zhang Li would have to teach him how to avoid water to go to the sea. But now, Luo Ying seemed capable of going anywhere. Luo Ying, his Dharma appearance always active, toured around the world. When the people in the safe zone saw the several dozen-meter-tall Buddha statue, they were dumbfounded. Fulin District Chief Wang also saw this scene and remembered Zhang Li's words of seeing the results after a month. Could it be that I used those 4,000 brain cores to build a Buddha statue? When the last zombie was wiped out, the system timer stopped as well. Congratulations to the host for completing the task, now drawing all the fragments of the ascending to immortal ladder from Luo Ying's body. A golden light flashed from Luo Ying's body and fell into Zhang Li's hands. Can the system save the fragments of the ascending to immortal ladder for the host? Zhang Li directly refused and put the fragments into the storage ring. Is this the fragment of the ascending to immortal ladder that Mr. Zhang has been looking for? Luo Ying and Luo Zhu curiously observed the small gold piece in Zhang Li's hand, which looked like an ordinary piece of gold foil. This was the first time Zhang Li had seen a fragment. He scanned it with his divine sense and found that it contained extremely complex laws. However, these laws were fragmented and probably needed other fragments to be usable. As he expected, the fragment only had a little residual energy left, not enough to let Luo Ying be reborn again. Mr. Zhang, do we have a chance to go to the 9 provinces? Luo Ying and Luo Zhu looked at Zhang Li expectantly. After spending several months with Zhang Li and hearing him describe the wonders of the 9 provinces, they were very eager to go there. I'm afraid that's unlikely for now. I won't be able to influence your world for 10 years, and you won't be able to reach the level of the broken void in 10 years. Therefore, you have to wait 10 years for the 9 provinces to fully connect with your world. Quote. Brahma Tower chimed in, actually, I could set up a portal to enable people from the 9 provinces to come over. However, they'll be like us, only capable of talking, unable to directly influence this world. Please allow us some time to recover order. Luo Ying temporarily refused to establish a portal. Their world was still in ruins. Destroying order was easy, but rebuilding it was hard, especially when large-scale weapons had been nearly scrapped. It wasn't yet clear how disagreements between various nations would be resolved. If people from the 9 provinces came over now, it would be chaos. All right, I will return here in a year to see how things stand, Zhang Li didn't insist. You can spread the map of spiritual energy. The enhancer system damages the roots. Now that the zombies are gone, there's no need to enhance the body. Okay, also, you'd better not always maintain your state in the divinity transformation stage. You are talented, and relying too much on faith will just waste it. Luo Ying followed Zhang Li's suggestion, immediately dispersed the power of faith, and the Dharma appearance behind him disappeared. He fell back from the divinity transformation stage to the foundation establishment stage. And Luo Zhu, you are indeed very talented, but you are too reliant on your brother. You need to learn to think independently. Luo Zhu was like a bunny, her eyes turning red as she held back tears and nodded. You can rest for a while. There's no need to be so tense, especially Luo Ying. You've survived in the apocalypse for 10 years, and even after being reborn, you haven't rested, always rushing about with me. You are exhausted, so now that the dust has settled, it would be best to get some rest. Cultivation doesn't require speed, it requires stability. Your talents will make you exceptional in the future. Don't rush. Among your peers, you are the most outstanding ones I've ever seen. Zhang Li was like a wise, old man, prattling on and on the eve of a goodbye. He had something to say about everything. When Zhang Li turned to leave, Luo Ying and Luo Zhu knelt on the ground with tears streaming down their faces, and chorused, "Thank you, Mr. Zhang, for your teachings and for saving the world." Zhang Li casually replied, "It was just something I did in my spare time, and besides, I also had personal interests in it. I wanted to get the fragment." But Luo Ying and Luo Zhu didn't see it that way. The fragment was irrelevant to them, having it or not made no difference. What they saw was Mr. Zhang, who like an elder, taught them cultivation techniques and used extraordinary means to save the world. They bowed to thank him. "Mr. Zhang, I have heard you talk about the human emperor. I wonder if I am eligible to be a human emperor." Zhang Li laughed, "Ha, then you'd better work hard. I think your sister has a higher chance of becoming the human emperor. As long as the ruling class of this world agrees that this world is a branch world of the 9 provinces, the 9 provinces' earth veins will recognize this place as a part of the 9 provinces, and a candidate for the human emperor can be selected from here." This time, Luo Ying wasn't discouraged, instead he said sincerely, "I will work hard." Quote. Zhang Li restrained his laughter and nodded in satisfaction. SEAHTHE novel FIR. NET. After Zhang Li and Brahma Tower left, Luo Ying exhaled deeply, feeling a weight lifted off his shoulders. He no longer had to worry about how to survive, how to eliminate zombies, how to save more people, or how to bring about peace. "Brother, actually I also want to be the human emperor." Luo Zhu tried to think about issues independently and revealed her aspiration. "I won't back down on this issue." Luo Ying laughed heartily. "Good, it seems we think alike. But for now, it's more important to deliver the good news that the zombie crisis has been resolved to the world." Chapter 138 to 137, The Wind Flutters the Banner. Chapter 138. Chapter 137, The Wind Flutters the Banner. After returning to Zhou, Zhang Li first visited the realm of Buddhism with the Tower of Brahma. He happened to catch the Buddha Lord Wuji preaching. It was exceedingly profound. Various heavenly flowers fell from the sky, one of the anomalous phenomena associated with Buddhist law. The bodhisattvas and arhats who were in the body integration realm were in a trance, nodding their heads without realizing it. Originally, Wuji only had a gift for understanding Buddhist law. He needed further insight to truly comprehend its essence. He was a promising figure. But after the elderly Buddha of Mount Sumeru died, Wuji changed as if he were a different person. His previously naive spirit suddenly attained enlightenment, nearly approaching the absolute truth of Buddhist law. Even monks who had cultivated for 1,000 years felt inferior in comparison. The bodhisattvas and arhats called Wuji, the awakened one, believing that he had reached the level of self-enlightenment and had awakened others to emotions. Zhang Li knew that the cultivation of these bodhisattvas and arhats was still incomplete, without being able to break through the barrier of their hearts. They knew that Wuji's understanding of Buddhist law surpassed themselves, but their pride prevented them from acknowledging Wuji as the Buddha directly. So, they used the awakened one as a substitute. However, the awakened one, in actuality, is just another term for Buddha. The two are equivalent. The preaching event this time was grand. Monks and nuns from all over Mount Sumeru attended. As such, some of them weren't serious about studying Buddhist law and were distracted. Zhang Li stood at the back. Right in front of him was a pretty young nun who was reading a romance novel named, "The Overbearing Buddha Lord Fell in Love with Me." She was completely engrossed in her book, oblivious to Zhang Li's observing gaze from behind. Zhang Li had heard of the author of the book before, a person named, Sensual Teacher. Surprisingly enough, Zhang Li didn't meet this author for the first time. 500 years ago when he was venturing throughout various parts of Zhou, he often saw people selling sensual teachers, works at roadside stalls. At that time, the author had already been present for 300 years. Over these 500 years, sensual teacher had been continuously releasing new works, most of them romance novels like I Shall Not Fail You Even If I Have to Fail the Buddha, Love Across Lifetimes, The Heartless Moon's Matchmaker Has Feelings, and so forth. The author was ceaselessly inspired and highly prolific, writing up until the present day. Zhang Li hadn't seen the novel, The Overbearing Buddha Lord Fell in Love with Me, before, so it must be one of the newest works. This must be a cultivator who has lived for 800 years. Their level of cultivation must be quite high. Zhang Li always had the impression that this cultivator is someone he knows. Strange, who could it be? Next to the young nun was a young monk, around the same age as her, engrossed in a health education novel called Young Ah Bing, secretly chuckling to himself. The author was Night Rain with Umbrella. Zhang Li turned away, avoiding looking at the young monk. Feeling a bit awkward, he knew the true identity of the author Night Rain with Umbrella Ma Zhou couple, two of the human Emperor's Palace's commanders who are obsessed with having children. What's so interesting about these? The Tower of Brahma failed to understand the actions of these monks and nuns. From its perspective, what's the point of reading these books? The scriptures are always more interesting to read. Wu Ji seemed to be the reincarnation of an enormously capable person from the immortal realm, and his soul was unique with countless scars from trials and tribulations. However, as Wu Ji preached about Buddha, the scars on his soul started to heal. Even though the healing process was slow, it was indeed happening. Only Zhang Li could see this scene. Looking at Wu Ji on the preaching stage, the Tower of Brahma had a smile like a father's on its face. What a good kid. The Tower of Brahma was very pleased, as it didn't expect the little brat to have grown to this level. Even without its help, Wu Ji could sit firmly in the position of Buddha Lord. It secretly glanced at Zhang Li, thinking about whether it could manage to escape again. This time it would look for a world with lots of people and wouldn't allow another zombie Buddha land to happen. Zhang Li noticed the little movement of the Tower of Brahma and chuckled. He was not at all worried about the Tower of Brahma running away. When the preaching ended and monks and nuns started to leave, a nun named Qing Yu, who was sitting in the front row, quickly went up and brought out a kasaya she had sewn herself. Look, the flags are moving. There's a big wind. Don't catch a cold. Put this on quickly. Wu Ji, a nascent soul stage cultivator who doesn't feel hot or cold, shrugged in embarrassment. Qing Yu, it's not the wind that's moving, it is not the banners that move, but the hearts of benevolent people. Oh come on, don't worry about what's moving. Just put it on. As a cultivator in the body integration realm, she was not someone a nascent soul stage could resist. Wu Ji couldn't argue with the Taoist nun Qing Yu and had no choice but to obediently put on the meticulously made kasaya. The Tower of Brahma was dumbfounded. This is completely inappropriate. Wu Ji is only 14. He's 15 now. Is this even about age? Right, age is not the issue. Zhang Li and the Tower of Brahma attracted the attention of the monks with their clamor. Previously, the monks were immersed in the aftermath of Wu Ji's preaching and didn't notice the duo. Zhang, the human emperor, have you found the sacred Buddhist artifact? The dragon subduing Arhat was overjoyed. Even though they had quickly selected a new Buddha Lord and settled down quickly after the old Buddha's death, the people were still uneasy. Moreover, with the old Buddha gone, there was no longer a transcendence tribulation stage at Mount Sumeru, hence a decrease in their strength. The NO's circumflexvelfire.net. Now that the Tower of Brahma, who had mastery over spatial laws, was present in Mount Sumeru, they finally had a true sense of security. What sacred Buddhist artifact? You should call it Lord Tower of Brahma. Another Arhat glared at the dragon subduing Arhat. He had a unique name, the non-subdued Arhat. The reason for this name was very simple. He was a true dragon that had converted to Buddhism. The dragon subduing Arhat glared at non-subdued Arhat. Only you could talk like that. Because of their names, the two Arhats often had open and covert conflicts. This was a well-known fact in the realm of Buddhism. Zhang sir, you must be tired. Wu Ji walked down the stage unhurriedly, greeting Zhang Li in a calm and steady pace, different from the way he was on the flying boat. Little fellow, have you missed me? Little tower, long time no see. No need to be so polite, Lord Wu Ji, please allow me to borrow the Tower of Brahma for a while. Zhang Li got straight to the point. He came to Mount Sumeru not to return the Tower of Brahma but to give a heads up to the owner after finding the lost item. Wu Ji paused for a moment, then clasped his hands together and said, if the little tower agrees, of course I have no objection. What for? The Tower of Brahma thought that Zhang Li was returning it. Didn't you say that you could establish spatial passages? Jojo is too big, and the lower level cultivators lack effective communication. For convenience, you could establish some spatial passages throughout JoJo. Zhang Li had thought of this as soon as the Tower of Brahma gained spiritual intelligence. Now that the heavenly demon has disappeared and there are no external threats, they should focus on development and boost JoJo as a whole to the next level. Transportation is an important link. Establishing spatial passages would speed up the flow of information and economy. It would allow ideas from different regions to collide and spark, leading to better development in JoJo. Let me be clear, my ability is limited. At most, I can maintain 20 spatial passages at the same time and it would still need a lot of spiritual energy for maintenance. Quote, 20 is already a lot. You don't have to worry about spiritual energy, there will be people who are eager to help you solve it. Zhang Li was not worried about the issue of spiritual energy. Amitabha, this is an action that accumulates immeasurable virtues. Little Tower, you should agree. Wuji said, even though JoJo did not bestow virtue, doing good deeds should not be for gaining virtues but should come from the desire to do good. All right then. The Tower of Brahma agreed. If it didn't need to consider the spiritual energy issue, then there was nothing to worry about. Anyway, this was not a difficult task. What is the head teacher of Qingyu here for? Zhang Li glanced at her, asking knowingly. The Pure Land of Red Dust and Buddhism are not far apart, almost neighbors. So, I came to exchange feelings. Qingyu, full of righteousness. Exchange feelings with monks. The Tower of Brahma was on alert. After saying goodbye to Wu Ji, Zhang Li brought the Tower of Brahma to the Dao sect. Now that the Tower of Brahma was in place, it was time to fulfill the promise to Mingzhong. Chapter 139 to 138, The First Step Outside into the Nine Provinces World. Chapter 139, Chapter 138, The First Step Outside into the Nine Provinces World. Zhang Li had promised Mingzhong when they separated that he would visit Mingzhong's world again after finding the Fantian Tower. In fact, Zhang Li could visit at any time, but he made this promise for two reasons. On one hand, the existence of the Taoist Patriarch's immortal body in Mingzhong's world is of great significance to the Tao sect. But Bai Hongtu couldn't traverse the void, and although the immortal elder could, it would consume his immortal power. Consequently, Zhang Li had suggested to the elder that it wasn't urgent, they could wait until after he found the Fantian Tower. On the other hand, the technological level of Mingzhong's world was high. If a zombie crisis occurred there, they wouldn't fear fourth-tier zombies because their mecha could handle them. Mingzhong's world and JoJo developed in entirely different ways. Zhang Li intended to establish a connection between JoJo and Mingzhong's world for mutual exchange and development. Moreover, Zhang Li was also concerned about the safety of Mingzhong's world. Since the outer heavenly demons could transform a Qing and make humans disappear, they might strike again. Upon hearing that they were going to Mingzhong's world, Bai Hongtu and the Immortal Elder were delighted. They informed all the body integration realm elders in the Tao sect to smarten up and not disgrace themselves in another world. They didn't even tell the sect elders about the immortal body of the Taoist Patriarch, so as to avoid causing panic. Although they didn't want the elders to know the truth, Bai Hongtu and the Immortal Elder still wanted them to visit that world, a rather contradictory desire. To everyone in JoJo, another world was indeed a strange and fascinating place, even to powerful figures in the body integration realm. Especially since the Tao sect elders had seen the scenery of that world through the remote communication talisman, they found it interesting that objects could be moved without the use of spiritual energy, a profound idea indeed. The Yin-Yang Heaven Seal was still pondering over spiritual treasure cultivation methods. According to the Fantian Tower, if Yin-Yang Heaven Seal successfully developed a systematic cultivation method for spiritual treasures, their own immortal artifacts could cultivate and allow for more spatial channels to exist. Therefore, everybody left Yin-Yang Heaven Seal alone. The time flow rate in Mingzhong's world and JoJo was the same. 4.5 years had passed since their separation. After Zhang Li left, Mingzhong had ordered the citizens to restore their emotions. The remaining threats were minor, they could be handled by their mecha without causing any casualties. Therefore, when they found out that the monstrous beasts were no longer a problem, and the survival pressure of thousands of years had disappeared, the world celebrated for a whole year. Mingzhong was hailed as the most outstanding president. If they weren't pursuing superior weaponry and higher-level science, the people of Mingzhong's world wouldn't need to work. The productivity level here was terrifyingly high with fully automated production. People could work based on their interests, drawing cartoons, being a teacher, and even those who didn't want to go to school had to go. After solving the survival issue, Mingzhong as the president noticed a new problem, rampant hedonism. Fortunately, this problem wasn't severe, and they could solve it gradually. Moreover, Mingzhong now faced a new minor yet annoying issue. President Mingzhong, Please tell us the truth about how the monstrous beasts were handled, a congressman asked, a question he had asked countless times, only to receive the same answer. No comment, Ming Zhang replied impatiently. I've written down the whole course of the event and classified it as top secret. If everything goes as expected, it will be declassified in 100 years. Ming Zhang didn't know if Zhang Li wanted to publicize the event. He didn't dare to make hasty decisions. There had been a great commotion when Zhang Li and the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal fought. Although they fought at the other end of the continent, the humans were still aware of it. However, they only knew that something had happened, not why. Only Ming Zhang knew the whole story. He was dealing with a formidable figure who could flip the entire continent. Despite appearing amiable, he didn't dare to risk crossing Zhang Li. What if he did something that didn't align with Zhang Li's interests? The consequences would be. But humans were always curious, especially about big matters. Ming Zhang, as the president, had to listen to public opinion, hence he came up with a compromise. Declassifying the documents after 100 years. Obviously, the congressmen didn't want their descendants to know the truth after 100 years. They wanted to know it now. Ming Zhang, there's nothing to hide. My matters need no secrecy, a familiar voice said, filling Ming Zhang with delight. Mr. Zhang Li, Ming Zhang exclaimed, causing the congressmen to look at each other in confusion. They didn't understand why the president had suddenly become so excited. They wondered if their pressure had driven him mad. They felt a bit guilty. Is that the leader of the human race? Seems a bit stifled. Talk through mental communication. Don't announce our opinions publicly. It makes us look rude. What's there to be afraid of? He doesn't understand what we're saying anyway. Seems reasonable, he is indeed stifling. A group, mostly comprised of middle-aged individuals, suddenly appeared in the parliament, leaving the congressmen at a loss. The Tao sect elders who arrived were of the body integration realm, and had enormous divine sense coverage. Their divine senses enveloped the entire city, easily identifying the linguistic patterns of this world and as a result, learning its language. Nevertheless, even if they've learned it, they still used JoJo language for communication. Who'd imagine that this leader, with his mediocre cultivation and unimpressive combat prowess, emerged as the boss? SEAHTHEATOVEL-Fire.net. Apparently, it's determined by something called genes before birth. Genes. That's new. Although their divine senses had gleaned many things, mastering them all would still be a challenge. What are you doing here? Facing impeachment, Zhang Li asked, smiling. Nothing so serious, just the usual squabbles, Ming Zhang said, visibly relaxed by Zhang Li's arrival. Remember you wanted to know how the monstrous beasts were handled. It was Mr. Zhang Li who helped us handle them, an alien. Did he solve it with the help of his forces? Just like the original name, the congressman also thought Zhang Li was an alien. Ming Zhang repeated the whole sequence of events, though he omitted certain parts, such as them being the remnants of the immortal realm, and the continent being the corpse of some entity. The congressman who learned the truth still couldn't believe it. It was almost inconceivable. How could a person be so powerful? However, when Zhang Li took them out of the gravitational field, they believed. Mr. Ming Zhang, good to see you again, Bai Hongtu bowed. He had seen Ming Zhang through the remote communication talisman before and was surprised that their world couldn't even resist a body integration realm beast. Sect Master Bai greeted Ming Zhang in return. Let me introduce you. These people are the high-ranking officials from the second largest power in JoJo, all of them are in the body integration realm. The elder bowed respectfully to Ming Zhang, just like they hadn't mocked the leader moments ago. Ming Zhang gasped and hurriedly returned the bow. He IMEW the concept that a single body integration realm beast could wipe out the entire human race if it weren't for Mr. Zhang Li. And they were all in the body integration realm, yet 2 realms behind Zhang Li. Ming Zhang, feeling dwarfed, relaxed a bit. After all, although he was the supreme leader of humanity, a theoretically equal position to that of Zhang Li, the gap was quite large. As a gracious host, Ming Zhang warmly welcomed his guests from afar. Ming Zhang took everyone to the most high-end restaurant. The food in this world had greatly improved since Zhang Li's initial visit. With the pressure of survival gone, people began to pursue delicacies. The food, surprisingly delicious, was savored by the elders. The congressman accompanied them at the side, chatting with the elders about JoJo's customs and being astounded by its vastness and might. Chapter 140 to 139, The Restless Elders. Chapter 140, Chapter 139, The Restless Elders. I recall Mr. Zhang Li mentioning that once the Brahma Tower is found, we will catch up like old friends, but has the Brahma Tower been found? Ming Zhang asked at the dinner table. He had been sneaking glances around for quite some time but did not see any object resembling a tower. Indeed, the Brahma Tower has been found. However, it does not wish to reveal itself due to various reasons. Zhang Li said with a laugh. The tower was in fact right there, concealed behind a spatial wrap, even the technology of this world could hardly detect it. Ever since arriving at this world, the Brahma Tower had been silent, not clamoring to establish a Buddha land here, which was quite unusual. Zhang Li telepathically communicated with it and the answer he received was both amusing and bewildering. The Brahma Tower said that it found that in this world, all the basic necessities of life were free, people lived freely with no pursuit of money or material possessions. Their spiritual realm was incredibly full, there was simply no ground for establishing a Buddha land. Or it could be said that any religion would find it hard to gain a foothold in this world. The inability to spread its teachings made Brahma Tower a bit sullen, but it did not want to show this side of itself in front of others, so it chose to hide. Now that the Brahma Tower has been found, a stable passage between both worlds can be formed. I wonder what President Ming Zhang thinks about this. Such a great opportunity exists. Ming Zhang was more than willing. He wanted nothing more than to establish a connection with such a friendly and powerful world. However, he had his worries. Through their conversation, he had learned that JoJo was not a united entity, but was a grouping of various large and small factions. Among them, there might exist factions with malicious intentions towards their world. These factions, even if comprised of just one individual at the body integration realm, might be a small force to Zhang Li, but to Ming Zhang's world, they would represent an irresistible major force. Recognizing the hesitance in Ming Zhang, Zhang Li smiled. My plan is to establish the portal within the Dao sect. Any faction from JoJo that wants to go to your world has to pass through inspection by the Dao sect. The Dao sect will be responsible for your safety. This was a request by Bai Hongtu. He was aware that all sorts of characters could be found in the factions of JoJo. These factions must not be allowed to enter this world at will. Bai Hongtu and Elder Cheng Kun held a natural fondness for the people of this world. These people were remnants of the immortal realm, carefully sheltered by the Dao ancestors. One could say that in essence, the Dao sect and the people of this world were all from the Dao family. Moreover, during the initial period of exchange, a large number of personnel should not be commuting between our worlds. We can carefully select distinguished individuals from both our worlds to traverse the worlds, learning and broadening their horizons. Once the two worlds become more accustomed to each other, we can gradually increase the number of exchange quotas until there are no longer any limitations. Liberalization is a gradual process. Zhang Li understood that it would be unwise to rush things. Very good, very good. Seeing that Zhang Li had considered the plan so thoroughly, Ming Zhang repeated the phrase twice. Zhang Li smiled. I have never had experience forming diplomatic relations with other worlds either. We are all in the process of feeling our way across the river by touching the stones beneath. Do voice out if there is anything you have in mind. Ming Zhang and Zhang Li struck up a harmonious atmosphere as they exchanged ideas. In the end, both agreed to draft an agreement on a personal level. Although they were representing themselves, where one was the highest leader and the other revered as the human emperor of JoJo, it was not possible to separate their private and public roles completely. All their actions represented their respective worlds. Privately, it was the unspoken agreement between the pair. Being private citizens gave them more flexibility than being public officials, and it was more convenient. Otherwise, an agreement between two worlds would not be so simple to establish, unless JoJo intended to colonize through force. The agreement was straightforward. It involved the matters Zhang Li had previously mentioned. To facilitate addressing, it was decided in the agreement that this world would be referred to as the Ming Zhang world. This was not proposed by Ming Zhang, but by Zhang Li. Ming Zhang, being half reluctant and half willing, laughed heartily and agreed. Being able to give his name to a world was a great honor. Even though Ming Zhang did not seek fame or profit, he was still overjoyed. When Bai Hongtu came to know of the details of the agreement, he quickly gathered the elders and announced the decision. After discussions, we've decided that Elder Wang, Elder Li, and Elder Su, the three of you will stay in this world to learn for 2 months. After 2 months, another 3 elders will replace you. Bai Hongtu had chosen 3 elders, all skilled in different areas. The 3 elders whose names were mentioned were all smiles. This world was indeed fascinating, with all sorts of amazing technologies captivating them and sparking many innovative ideas. The other elders sighed regretfully, scheming about how to get the next quota. Ming Zhang sought out Bai Hongtu, explaining that they hadn't fully disclosed the existence of JoJo World to the public and asked if the elders who remained could keep a low profile. Bai Hongtu solemnly warned, I need to remind you 3 of something. You are here to learn and exchange knowledge, not to show off your abilities. most people in this world are still not aware of the existence of JoJo world. Be discreet when you are outside and refrain from performing phenomena that this world's science cannot explain, such as moving mountains and manifesting dharma in the world. Do not create trouble for President Ming. Zhang, one of the elders tentatively asked, is just changing the location of several mountains not allowed? SEAHTHENO circumflexvelfire.net. This elder had a deep understanding of geomancy. In JoJo, he often changed landscapes and switched lucky spots, making him the enemy of JoJo's map. He wanted to try it in this world too, to see if geomantic omen methods were applicable here and what changes there might be. No, what if I move the mountains and put them back in their original places? I'm proficient in illusion techniques. I can make 1,000,000 people fall into an illusion at the same time, ensuring others don't see me using magic. Obviously, this elder had great confidence in his illusion techniques. Bai Hongtu with a stern face. No. I want to engrave runes on the mecha to enhance them. Bai Hongtu softened his expression a little. Be mindful of the power. Don't worry, at most I'll do it on 100,000 mechas. Bai Hongtu's face darkened again. No. He felt that these three elders were determined to cause issues in this world. I'm sorry. These few elders of ours like to think out of the box. Don't take it too seriously, Bai Hongtu explained. Oh, I don't mind at all, Ming Zhang said quickly, his back breaking out in cold sweat. These were not scholars here to study, rather, they were like three immortals, each showing off their divine skills. Changing the position of dozens of mountains as they pleased, casting illusions on 1,000,000 people, and even a maximum of 100,000 mechas. Thank goodness Bai Hongtu was sensible. Otherwise, their world would be ruined by these elders in just a few days. Compared to this, the people selected by Ming Zhang were much more reliable. They were all outstanding young people in various fields, forming a small group of 20 members for a year of study in JoJo. Unlike JoJo, there was no need to conceal the existence of the Ming Zhang world. Even if the cultivators had not been to other worlds, they had heard of them. This small study group could openly study in JoJo without hiding their identities. Before leaving, Bai Hongtu and Elder Cheng Kun quietly leapt out of the gravitational area and came to another planet. They gazed at the continent with a vague figure resembling Tao ancestors. They cried silently and bowed 9 times in the direction of the continent.